Tick-tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D Wood. Right now I've got Jai and DoC. Jai and DoC, I think I hear you. Is that you?
Oh, yes.
Oh, hey, that's weird. It didn't, it does that weird. It's been doing that weird thing where it mutes you.
Cool.
Right?
No, we're here.
I have no idea how this works. So other times I've gone live without Giant DoC being on the screen. It mutes them right when I click start, and this time it didn't. So apparently the entire program is totally random in what it does. That's interesting. Interesting stuff. Hey guys, so what are we talking about today?
Today we are going to be discussing Farid's latest video responding to a stream that we did together on the many different Qurans.
So many different Qurans out there.
So many different Qurans.
We're responding to him, responding to us, responding to him.
Exactly.
And right before we started, you guys are pointing out that Farid seems obsessed with this. It's pretty fun. And why don't you give us a recap on Farid's role in bringing about the absolute annihilation of the perfect preservation myth? He actually played a pretty big role.
He leaked the one email that he should not have leaked, which said, you know what, Quran is in trouble. I'm losing my faith. Written by Yasser Qadi, talking about how he went to Yale and his whole worldview was crumbled. And Farid thought, you know what we should do with this email? Make it public. And he's been trying to backtrack ever since. And this is the latest episode.
Yes. That might actually account for the obsession in the sense of I've seen just like in sports, if a player really screws up and they're going to lose the game because of him, all of a sudden that player dials up everything to 10. He has to redeem himself, right? He has to save the team that he just got into a lot of trouble. And Farid might be like that. Imagine completely crushing the confidence so many Muslims had, because that was, I don't have any actual statistics to say that was the main argument, but it was definitely top three, if not number one, as far as the thing I would hear over and over again from Muslims. If it came right down to it, it would be, but our book's been perfectly preserved. It's a miracle. And so to completely dash the hopes of so many Muslims and to crumble their confidence in the Quran, Farid might be obsessed with redeeming himself. He didn't want to go down in history as the guy who leaked the emails and convinced Muhammad Hijab to get Sheikh Yasser Qadi on and to try and clean up the mess that Farid caused. And then Hijab and Yasser Qadi made the mess way bigger, 1,000 times bigger, and then Farid tries to swoop in and be the hero, and he's doing a pretty crap job of it, I have to say.
Yeah, I wonder how Farid feels about the fact that he's responsible for so many hundreds of Muslims leaving Islam because of that interview that ended up coming out. That interview caused so many Muslims to leave Islam. I think we lost count. We were screenshotting a lot of the comments from Muhammad Hijab's video to Yasser Qadi's video.
Wait, before they got rid of the comments or before they got rid of the entire video?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So one of the first things that they did was delete the comment section, from one of the two videos. Then the other one followed suit. Then Muhammad Hijab edited out that part of the interview that was, damaging to the Quran, preservation, all that stuff. Yasser Qadi still cut it up for a while. They both eventually just got rid of everything. But because of that, the aftermath, what happened, the avalanche of apostasy just opened up.
Yeah. And we do have those emails from Farida saying, I feel so bad that I did this. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Yeah, I got those emails. Everything is here. So yeah, that's a good theory, David. I think he feels bad. And also remember, in Islam, if you cause something bad to happen, a lot of those sins are on you.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So sorry,
Yeah.
Farid.
Yeah. So Farid led to a lot of apostasy, and for that we are forever grateful. But I mean, it's interesting if you look at the issue of the preservation of the Quran and Muslims forgetting chapters, and then ending up with all these different versions of the Quran, and then almost being ready to fight over it, and so Uthman has to burn it all, and then they still have all these different versions, and then we'll say that they all come from Allah, and so it reminds me of the whole situation with Muhammad Hijab and Sheikh Yasser Qadi and Farid. It's like, we have to preserve the confidence of Muslims, so let's keep editing everything. So let's cut this section out. Oh, let's delete this. Let's make this up. It's this has been going on for 1400 years. This disaster of the Quran and Muslim leaders trying to clean up the endless messes, and all to kind of preserve a false confidence in the perfection of this Quran. But for 14 centuries, it's been going on. A mess gets caused, then they try to clean it up. Another mess gets caused, then they try to clean that up. And this goes on for 14 centuries down to our time. And then they're pretending like there are no messes. But I have to say, because I keep saying in these live streams, because you got all these young bucks coming along after this has been going on for years, but you'll have new people coming along and they're entering into it, and like the discussions are about Muhammad and Aisha and all this. And I keep pointing out to people, like, you have no idea how much worse it was 15 years ago, when there weren't nearly as many people dealing with this issue, and the Dawah guys could kind of drown out people by just calling everyone liars and so on. But so anyway, it was way more difficult to be talking about these things 15 or 20 years ago. But I have to put it's just like 5 years ago. Just like 5 years ago, they were still defending perfect dot for dot, letter for letter preservation of the Quran. And now we look at every video from people like Farid and so on, and it's, how do we account for all these different Qurans? And here's our explanation for all these different Qurans. And this other Muslim disagrees with our explanation for why we have so many different Qurans, and whether all these Qurans go back to Muhammad. And it's like, guys, 5 years ago you were still saying dot for dot perfect preservation right down to the letter, with not one letter's difference between any two Qurans on the planet. At least the general mainstream Dawah guys. Maybe Farid wasn't, but it's just insane how quickly things can change in Dawah. And even though you'll have lots of Muslims who leave Islam, what's far more shocking is the Muslims that aren't bothered by this at all. It's just like, they'll hear all their lives perfect dot for dot, letter for letter preservation. And all of a sudden, they'll find out one day, that was all a lie. And they'll just go on believing the exact same guys who were lying to them their entire lives. And it's really amazing. It kind of shows like how they're conditioned to accept this. And this goes all the way back in Islam, like to the creation of man, when Allah creates Adam, and he tells the angels and the jinn to bow down to Adam, and Satan is the one who says, no, we're not supposed to. We're not supposed to bow down to anything but Allah. So there's no way I'm bowing down to that thing. And then he gets punished. And the takeaway is, it doesn't matter what I said yesterday. It doesn't matter what I said 10 years ago. It doesn't matter what I've said from all eternity. Right now, I'm telling you something different. So you need to mindlessly accept what I'm doing, and I will punish you. I will punish you if you don't mindlessly obey the new thing. And it was the same thing with Muhammad and abrogation. He would tell people, here's what you have to do. And then come along a week later, no, here's what you have to do, and completely contradict himself. And they're just trained all their lives to mindlessly accept the new thing and to completely ignore everything that happened before. That reminds me of like Andrew Tate, how he'll sit there bragging about trafficking these girls for years, and then all of a sudden, oops, it's illegal, and he'll say, nope, never happened. I never trafficked any of these girls, never happened. And then his followers will just go with that, which is why there was a really good fit with him in Islam. Now you have an entire community that's programmed to ignore everything they know happened the day before, as long as you're telling them something different today. And it's the same thing with Islamic apologetics. You go back 5 years, 10 years, scientific miracles. Now they acknowledge it's a lie, and the ummah just continues on as if nothing is wrong. perfect preservation. For years they said we were lying about Muhammad and Aisha. Lie, 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 lie. And then all the lies get exposed, and then they just move on with new lies. And it never, ever seems to bother lots of Muslims. It bothers some. It bothers some, and they leave Islam. But others, they're, nope, doesn't matter. It's just, it's like it's built into their understanding that lying is part of this entire thing. Weird stuff.
I literally just witnessed something like that yesterday on TikTok with God Logic. There was a Muslim that was denying that there's any such thing as a different version of the Quran. No such thing. There's only one version of the Quran. That's it. No differences.
And God Logic was there?
And God Logic was there.
Bad
and
idea.
so yeah, and so he went on, he opened up his camera and he showed, he had two physical copies of the Quran. He showed one and showed another one, and the guy was just like, let me read, squinting, looking, and he's like, that one's wrong. That one is wrong. The correct one reads like this. And so then a more knowledgeable Muslim came up and he's like, no, brother, don't say that. They're both correct. He basically just educated him, gave him the script. 2 seconds later, the guy was saying, oh yeah, he's right. Yeah, these are just saying the same thing. They're not contradicting each other. It's like a minute ago, you just told us that there's no contradictory, forget about contradictions. There's no different versions of the Quran. There's only one version, one script. They follow the same script. They don't change in any way. And now, since your brother came up that knows more than you, it told you that actually these are both, authentic in our tradition. They both go back to Muhammad in our tradition. Now you're saying, oh yeah, like 2 minutes ago you didn't know anything about the topic, and now you're just mindlessly repeating what your brother said.
They're like actors on a set. You give a different script, and then the director comes in, no, we want a different script. You feed them the different script, and they say, oh, and everybody starts with the new script.
Yeah.
That's Islam.
It's crazy.
This is amazing stuff. This is, and I have to say it for the 1,000th time, ladies and gentlemen. Would the truth need this? Would the truth need this lie to support it? So lie about scientific miracles, lie about perfect preservation, lie about the character of Muhammad, lie about all these things. And then when the lies get exposed, then you just pretend those never happened and you come up with new lies. And so it's just like this endless cycle of lies. And then they circle back to previous lies that were exposed, but since they were exposed in the past, then Muslims stopped using them for a while. But then since Muslims stopped using them for a while, people stopped learning the responses, and therefore, now we can use that same lie again. It's like, does the truth need this like endless cycle of lies to support it? That sounds there's something really, really weird about that. Here's the true religion with all the evidence and the final prophet and the best book, and you say, okay, what's your evidence for it? And you get 47 different lies. It's a bunch of lies. Yeah. And then and then it takes you years to expose those lies, and then they just come up with a new batch of lies. And they say, you see, this surely only the truth can be supported by such a wide array of lies. Wild stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like Ali Dawah, he'll openly admit that the scientific miracles are debunked, all that stuff. But then he also says, that's why I converted to Islam. So he's like, I converted to Islam based on what I now acknowledge as a lie. And he doesn't have any problem with that at all. It just doesn't
and Sajid
interrupt his
Sajid also said that he came to Islam because of the Quran's preservation. And then when he watched Mimi and Yasir Qadi completely decimate it, he said, this is the most damaging podcast ever. And then I was like, okay, are you going to leave now? Or
they don't leave.
And they didn't leave.
They don't leave.
Why?
They're like, yeah, we came to Islam for lies, and we're gonna stay for lies, I guess. I don't know.
It reminds me of like someone who converts to Islam, but then becomes like embedded in the community. Like I've heard it lots from like a woman who converts to get married to a Muslim man and so on. And he gives her a bunch of arguments. And then later on, she finds out all the arguments were completely bogus. But by that point, it's like hard to get out of because your entire life has now been based around this. And now you have kids and you're all, you're active in the masjid and so on. It becomes very, very difficult to get out of. But I guess it's like that for these guys. I mean, you convert and now your entire life and all your everything you do is about Islam. And okay, I found out all my reasons for believing Islam were completely false. What do I do? Well, I guess I'll just continue on. What else am I going to do? Weird. It's weird stuff. Weird, wild stuff. All right, should we go ahead and get into this? So this is, what is this? So as you pointed out, we did a live stream. So Farid said something about the different qira'ats. We made a live stream going through what he said. And then he made a response. He made a response saying that we didn't refute him. We didn't refute him on the qira'at. So we respect Farid for being the source of so much division and apostasy and fitna. So we're happy to hear him out anytime. Happy to hear him out anytime. We're going to listen to his new video. Let me just take these first couple of super chats real quick. And then we'll jump right into the video. What sinful desire causes people to cling to Islam? What do you guys think? What sinful desire causes people to cling to Islam? I think it could be multiple sinful desires.
I think it's probably like what you mentioned before, being embedded in family and culture. Islamic culture is very tight in that way. It's not individualistic like you see a lot in the West, where everybody's on their own. And this feeling of tribalism and loyalty, that no matter how bad it is, I'm loyal to that thing. That's what keeps people in Islam, sadly.
Okay.
I mean, for someone like Andrew Tate, I think his reasons would be like, oh, now I can justify my immorality in a religion. And, you know, he has other reasons for becoming a Muslim as well, definitely. And by the way, Farid blocked me for this. We did a stream
Blocked
for you? Yeah, he blocked me on Twitter
Weird.
because we did a stream about what Andrew Tate said about him.
Yeah.
And he blocked me. I mean, I don't know if he didn't like my thumbnail. I dressed him up a little bit because I wanted him to fit the part. But
wait, was Farid one of the guys that Andrew Tate called gay?
Yeah.
Sadly, yeah. And he got too sensitive about it.
He got salty about it.
Because we made a stream and like laughed at how that's funny, and also how gay Muhammad is in some sources.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
and blocked us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So sorry.
What's your problem, Farid? That's an honor. You just be imitating your prophet if Tate were right.
Yeah.
I bet he didn't block Andrew Tate though.
No, of course not. They need Andrew Tate.
Yeah. Sorry, I got myself sidetracked with that. But Andrew Tate, you know, he converts for probably a number of reasons. One of them, I'm sure, is to justify his sinful behavior. He's like, oh, what's a religion where I can have a bunch of slave girls do whatever I want to do, and you know, if they don't desire chastity, then I can prostitute them or whatever. Well, that's Islam. You can do that in Islam. You can do all sorts of sinful things. So I think it's one of those religions that can it makes your sin like accessible, and you don't need to feel bad about it because Islam allows it and justifies it.
Indeed, it does. And with an additional factor with Tate is, there's this big community out there, and as long as you say anything positive about Islam, you have a bunch of people who will suddenly defend you to the death. And same thing with like Sneeko. I mean, how many haram things does Sneeko do every single live stream? But as long as, you know, every Friday he posts a picture of himself in the mosque, all is forgiven, all is well. You know, we'll let him slide. If it were a female convert, they would be harassing her nonstop day and night to do everything that they tell her to do. But as far as people like Andrew Tate and Sneeko, just here's a big community that will not seriously question me no matter what I do if I just praise their prophet. I think that's what, since all the arguments now have been debunked, and like you can't even tell that the Dawah guys have any coherent argument at all anymore. I think Islam is just going to basically it's just going to be like a global gang at this point. It's going to be something you join, you jump into for your protection in a world that is bothering you, and it's like, oh, I can join this giant global gang with 2 billion members and so on. I think that's why a lot of people are going to be signing on to Islam in the future, because whatever happens, it's not because of any evidence, because they have none.
Exactly.
Let's see. Thank you for another European time friendly live. God bless you guys and all your work, D Wood and my favorite YouTube couple.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
God bless you too.
You think starting a channel like Jihad Watch, but the twist is ripping Qurans up after each jihad act to tell jihad terrorists to stop. I'll stop tearing up Qurans when they stop. Based or no go? That could be based.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. I used to do fun Islamic facts. Like after every major terrorist attack, I would make a video making fun of Muhammad right afterwards. So you could do the same thing in other ways.
Yeah.
Why don't Muslims claim the surahs causing the Islamic dilemma were abrogated? Are there only certain verses allowed to be abrogated? Giant DoC, you might know more than I do on this, but abrogation is supposed to be with commands. Like Allah tells you something, here's what you need to do now. So, you know, alcohol is okay. Later on, he can change that. He can change that, give a new command. So Allah affirming the inspiration and the preservation and the authority of the Torah and the gospel, that wouldn't fit into that category. He's describing that. As far as the commands to Jews and Christians to follow what's in the Torah and the gospel, there's nothing that comes after that and says, oh, by the way, don't follow the Torah and the gospel. There's nothing that abrogates those verses. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
That's correct.
That's right. Same thing.
The abrogation is for commands. And not only that, for something to be abrogated, you need evidence and the replacement of that abrogated command with another. And usually it's Muhammad or Allah who abrogates, because Surah 2, verse 106, Allah says, we do not abrogate a verse, nor cause it to be forgotten, but replace it with similar or better. So you need Allah or Muhammad, Allah through Muhammad, to abrogate and replace. So those verses with the Torah and the Gospel were never abrogated or replaced with better. Otherwise, you need to show us those better verses or different verses.
Yeah, something that will contradict it. Or,
yes,
yeah.
And believe it or not, even Muslims themselves do not stick to Muhammad or Allah being the source of abrogation. For example, Mut'a was meant to be abrogated according to the Sunnis. Yet in the tradition, you see Omar wanting to change it and others, but you never hear Muhammad or Allah saying it should be abrogated. To the point that some Muslims said, I'm not going to change something that Muhammad allowed. And that's why you have the split, where it's still practiced today.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there's like an entire legal school. They have like differences on abrogation,
Yep.
And it says something to the effect of, basically the Sunnah cannot abrogate the Quran. Only the Quran can abrogate the Quran. But the majority view is that yes, Sunnah can actually abrogate the Quran, but there's differences even amongst Muslim legal schools in regards to that. I don't know the specifics, but I remember reading about that.
Yeah. So
and it actually, the whole issue of abrogation reminds me of the different Qiyrat issue, in the sense that the objection gets brought up to the problem gets brought up to Muhammad before the explanation comes. So the problem arises first. In other words, hey, Muhammad, people are reciting the Quran in these different ways. What's going on here? And then, oh, didn't you know I've been revealing it in all these different ways? And it's the same thing with the abrogation, that it's the pagans, according to the Asbab al-Nuzul, it's the pagans who are pointing out, wait a minute, Muhammad tells you to do something one day, and then 2 weeks later he tells you something else, and you guys just go with that. What's going on here? That's when, oh, don't you know that Allah, when he abrogates something, he brings something better? And it's like, why do the explanations always come after this becomes this huge problem? And the explanation always sounds really stupid.
Yeah, it's always ad hoc, and it's incredibly stupid.
It tells you how human it is, because that's a theological issue. If God says, I'll bring you something better, because God is meant to be perfect. So there's no better in his word. You know, he doesn't sit and think and think, you know, I'll replace it with something better. That's a human thing.
Zachary here says, speaking of different versions of things, what denomination of Christianity does David Wood subscribe to? I've always wondered, and now that I'm coming back to Christ, and you may offer advice in this. I would not be good for offering advice on denominations, because I don't have one. So yeah, you'd have to ask someone else about that. Snudgewick says, Ali Dawah threw the Quran miracles under the bus. He sure did.
That's
And
true.
and all he did was kind of what hijab but he did it deliberately. Hijab and Yasser Qadi, they weren't trying to wreck the perfect preservation of the Quran. But I mean, you had scholars knew this, educated Muslims knew about the differences. They didn't want to damage the faith of the Muslim population, so they wanted to keep that stuff a secret and lie about it. But it was the same. It was similar with the miracles in that the Dawah guys had all learned over time that this is all complete nonsense. But they didn't want to, they knew that there were lots of Muslims out there whose confidence was based on the scientific miracles because of Zakir Naik and so on. And so they didn't want to like undermine all the work of the previous Dawah generation. But Ali Dawah was just like, heck with it, I'll just do it. Yeah, I say it's all debunked. Yeah, so yeah, there was the argument that convinced me, but it was a lie. Yeah, all the arguments that I believed in that made me confident in Islam, they's all lies, but I'm still a Muslim, yeah, because this is how it makes my money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. I bet you the Dawah guys, they have like this, like the upper end Dawah guys who make like the decisions of like, okay, these are the arguments that we're going to start running out and ruling out. There's like a hierarchy of like different levels of Dawah guys. And I've heard some of them discussing things like on TikTok and other things like that, when they're just kind of like talking and just discussing issues amongst themselves, because there's like a Muslim YouTube channel that uploads their discussions that's like inner debates between Muslims. And I'm thinking like, it's like Muslims posting their own L's. It's like it's a channel by Muslims debating Muslims anyway. So they're like having debates about the Islamic dilemma and things, and some of them are saying like, well, you say this, you can't say that, you can't, but I just feel like what you said is true, that there's a large number of them that are now saying, guys, if you're saying, for example, that Muhammad is in Isaiah 42, that's going to just like destroy our theology. You can't do that. And it hasn't made its way to like the mainstream Muslim Dawah scene yet, but there's talks about it among some of the Dawah guys. And I think what you're saying is accurate, that there's talks, and then it kind of breaks itself down or gets down to the mainstream level someday, after someone like Ali Dawah,
So Ali Dawah will come soon and say Isaiah 42 is debunked.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, by the way, those are the two next big things. The next big thing. So at first you had the character of Muhammad, and anytime you said anything about Muhammad and Aisha or Muhammad and Zainab and so on, they just called you a liar back in the day. Now they all admit these things. Back in the day, no wife beating, no, none of that. That's all lies. Houris in paradise, no, it's raisins, right? So they were saying all these things to defend the morality of Muhammad and so on. Whereas now they just admit all these things. So it changes over time. Same thing with the scientific miracles. Same thing with the perfect preservation. The next two big things to be working on are the Islamic dilemma stuff and Muhammad in the Quran, with passages like Isaiah 42. In other words, getting them to the point where they acknowledge that their own positions fail and that they've been lying all along. Going to be fun times. David Wood late again. What's that? Good.
I was just going to say, like, as you pointed out before, that we can say things for years and years and years and years, but once one of the Dawah guys says it, it's like, then it has a huge effect. And I feel like the time is coming when we're going to hear like a Yasser Qadi equivalent of some Dawah guy talking about the Islamic dilemma, and it's going to completely break the Dawah world.
Yeah, it will. These are, so guys, these are, lots has changed. A lot of stuff has changed in the past 15, 20 years. Imagine what else is going to change in the next 15 or 20 years, because they're already feeling the heat. They're already feeling the heat. So we got to keep up the pressure. Let's see. David Wood late again. Can't blame a Turk today. What are you talking about? We are right
Aren't
here.
You like 5 hours early?
Yeah, super early. Kira says, thank you for all your work. You are making a difference. Yeah, guys, everyone who's involved, even out there, even if you're out there, if you're sharing one Quran verse, one Hadith passage and stuff, that's making a difference. If everyone who learns one thing shares it with one, because as Jai was just pointing out, you'll still have Muslims who haven't heard any of this stuff, who still think, even though this is even though it's all over the internet about the different Qurans and so on, and Yasser Qadi and the holes in the narrative and so on, you still have lots of Muslims who that hasn't filtered down to. So there's still a lot of work to do in that. I mean, but think about it. If every person shares one piece of information with one other person, that's a lot of more informed people out there.
That's right.
Hey, Dave, big fan. You inspired me to get my degree in apologetics. Cool.
Nice.
You think Saitama would one-punch Muhammad? I think my Aunt Maple would one-punch Muhammad.
Aunt Maple.
It's a metaphysical matter. It sure is. People can be completely corrupted by their sin and follow a false religion to satisfy their slavery to sin. Total depravity. Yeah, that is a good description of
Sounds
Islam.
like
Yep. That was a super sticker there. You guys can make a show on making better arguments for Islam. May God continue to bless you all. I wouldn't know how to make better arguments for Islam, but yeah, they definitely need some help. They definitely need some help. Let's see. Oh, that was no comment there. I don't know why these Muslims take seriously Farid. Never debated anyone. Yeah, we've asked Farid to join us. It doesn't have to be a debate. It can be a friendly discussion. Don't know why. But he responds to everything we say, so it's not like oh, they're not worth my time or something like that. Come on, Farid. Yeah. You can bring your friend Knowledge North with you. That's Sajid's friend. Sorry about that.
Sajid, yeah, that's Sajid. Yeah, different Dawah gangs. I don't think Farid is good in discussions. He does have some debates with like Shia, and I think he had like a couple with Quran only Muslims, but not like formal debates, like more informal discussions, heated discussions. But yeah, he's not really good on his feet. Like he's not like I think he's more the type of guy who likes to sit down and kind of get his notes prepared, but except for his live streams where he takes like 5 hours to do things and pulls out books from his library. But other than that, I think he's more kind of like a video kind of response type of person.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows,
yeah, different.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Some people like most of my stuff is me speaking to a camera. Most of my videos over the years are me speaking to a camera and stuff. So I get that, and he's under. People are under no obligation to debate people. But for everyone who's saying, hey, why aren't you talking to Farid? We are extending the invitation. If he wants to join us and discuss this, then the open invitation. He's got an open invitation to do that.
Yeah. That wasn't a put him down, by the way. I was just stating that's what I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a weird situation because we could have a friendly discussion. I don't dislike Farid. I don't dislike Farid. I think he's wrong and stuff like this, but not in the same way like Ali Dawah or something. He's like a revolting person to me. Farid doesn't come across that way. So you could actually have a totally friendly discussion with Farid. And so it's like, hey, you're saying this stuff to a camera. We're inviting you. We could keep it informal and friendly. Why would you not want to do that?
Good point.
Don't know. Good news, Dawah guys are telling Muslims to not come into Christian lives on TikTok. Islam is falling on TikTok. Alhamdulillah, Jesus. Is that true? Are they telling people that happened over on TikTok?
That's true. That is true. It happened on another app called Clubhouse as well. What happens is the Dawah guys, they start to explore a little bit, and some Christians, they don't really know who they are, so they think that they can, you can get this guy, and then they find out really fast that it's not going to go the way they thought it would go, and so eventually you just have all these Christians that are joining their lives or having our own streams, and Muslims just the Dawah guys are saying don't go to their streams. So what ends up happening is Muslims still flock to our streams, but it's like the ones that aren't the Dawah guys, like they want to debate, but they're not like these, like they're not like the chest pumping, pound their chest kind of Dawah guys. They're more just like younger Muslim kids, like teenagers kind of stuff. And so that's kind of what's happened, because they tell their own Dawah guys don't go to their streams, don't go to their lives. So what happens is they're just leaving their young ones out to Well, the way I look at it is that they're hearing the truth, and they can make the decision what they want to do with it.
Yeah, so it's just interesting that that's the pattern everywhere now, because I mean it's the same thing at like Speaker's Corner. It's for years, oh, come face us, and then people learn the Dawah script and expose them, and now, okay, don't talk to any Christian who has any idea what we're talking about, and they run, and then it's the same thing. Looks like on TikTok now. Just stay away from Christians who know how to expose our stuff, because it's just going to destroy your confidence. Why? Because all the stuff we told you is true about Islam. If you go to them, they're going to show you that we lied about all of it, and they're going to use our sources to show you that we lied about all of it. And we don't want that to happen. So just stay away from those Christians.
Yeah, we literally just read their sources. We just read. That's all we do. Like God Logic even came up with a saying. He's like, what do? We just read. That's all we do. We just take their sources, we read them, and Muslims can't handle it. They can't handle it.
Yeah, again, is the Muslims who are watching, does the truth need this? Does the truth need lie to support it, perfect preservation, another lie to support it, scientific miracles, lies, and then, oh, you need to go live in a plastic bubble in Antarctica to avoid coming into contact with someone who's actually going to tell you the truth. Does the truth need that? The truth needs to avoid and keep you safe from anyone who tells you the truth? Guys, everything you say about your religion sounds exactly what you would assume is a giant lie. Like everything. It sounds like, if I didn't know anything about your religion, I didn't know any information, all I knew was that you keep having to lie to defend it. And in addition to having to lie and make up arguments to prop up your religion, in addition to that, you don't want to be around anyone who knows what's in your sources. You have to conceal what's in your sources from people. If that's all I knew and I didn't know any details, I would say there's no way that's true. There's no way that's true. The truth does not need that.
Yeah. And I just want to add as well that the Dawah guys, they get themselves in trouble if they come interact with us. There was a session where a couple of people went to like Balboa Park where God Logic goes, and a couple other Christians went with them, and some of the Dawah guys from TikTok went there too. And just because this Dawah guy, he like shook Avery's hand or he gave him a hug or something like that, they were like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing to be nice to this guy? What are you doing?" No. I didn't hug him. He hugged me. It's like that. He had to squiggle out of it because they
Central Dawah.
Yeah, he got in so much trouble just because he like reciprocated like niceness.
I didn't put my arms around him.
Yeah.
The exact words.
Yeah, and so it's like their Dawah guys are like they it's like cannibalistic. They just eat each other alive. It's crazy.
Hey, that's pretty funny because when I was at Speaker's Corner this time, that little, what's that little Muslim's name?
Oh, Siraj.
Yeah. He hugged me. We hugged each other as I was wearing a Quran shirt. That was funny. That was
worried. You weren't worried that they would do something?
No, they can't.
It's indestructible.
They can't. They can't. I was indestructible. I would dare them. You guys want to stab the Quran? Go be my guest. God bless all three of you, Jai and DoC. Your work is fantastic. Praise Jesus for your work. May God give us another 10,000 Christian warriors online to bring down the abomination of Islam faster. Speed it up, please. Yes, I have to say these are good times. And thanks, Dr. Rick, for gifting some Apologetics Roadshow memberships. We got a few more super chats, but I want to go ahead and jump into this video so we don't take too long.
All right.
But we'll get to the super chats in a little bit. Let's get to this powerful response from Farid.
So David Wood recently responded to one of my late night chai streams where I'm asking the chat about why we believe.
Hey, he clarified that he was drinking chai because I was like, what's he drinking there? Is that camel pee? By the way, why does he just emphasize me when you guys were doing most of the work?
I'm telling you, he obsessed.
He really is very fond of you.
Yeah,
Farid, I'm just a man, Farid. I'm just a regular guy. I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you. Only difference is when my pants are on, I make way better videos than you.
Oh.
No, I stole that from the more cowbell skit.
Oh.
Christopher Walken.
In multiple recitations of the Quran. Naturally, if you have like multiple versions of something, then one would usually assume that there are mistakes or the other versions are inauthentic. So why assume we have multiple recitations?
Good
and
question.
someone in the comments said, well, we have isnads to the Prophet, peace be upon him. And then David, in response to that, said,
Samin says because we have chains of it going back to the Prophet.
Because we have, that's chai tea there, ladies and gentlemen. That's chai tea. Nothing weird. Because we have isnads. Hey, am I wearing the exact same shirt?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you are.
Wow.
The hair is different though.
It's a
Oh, yeah.
miracle. It's a miracle. What are the odds? I have drawers full of t-shirts. Same exact one. Wow. It's a new miracle. That's funny. That's what makes it foolproof. Hey, I should have worn a red shirt. You guys see the color scheme? I actually switched the background to blue
Oh,
because he
yeah.
had the red background. So to distinguish it, it would have been funny if I had on a red shirt. Now I actually want to go toss on a red shirt. Anyway, Reed, I could make up a Quran right now and write you an isnad for it.
but let's imagine that you
Okay, so I kind of interrupted myself on that one, but so the response is, how do we know that all of these Qurans are authentic and go back to Muhammad? Because we have the isnads. And I said, I can make a Quran right now and write a chain for it. So Farid's responding to that. Everyone clear? He's going to explain why it's stupid of me to say that an isnad chain could be made up.
in the 2nd century. You were in Al-Kufa and you decided to create an isnad to this new Quran that you've come up with. I was going to be falling for that because, David, you are a Christian.
Did you see how he represented that? He's trying to show the absurdity of someone fabricating an isnad chain and so on. And he says, oh, okay, suppose I come up with a new Quran. Are people going to believe that? Guys, just be clear, we're not saying that someone just like wrote a completely new Quran and then came up with an isnad, right? You have a Quran that's popular in your area that is the product of changes over time, copyist errors and so on, and you write an isnad chain for it. I'm saying that's not hard to do, Farid. That's not hard to do. And we know because we have the parallel with these hadiths. You have all kinds of hadiths which completely contradict, completely, utterly, totally contradict each other, and they're all sahih. So they all have reliable isnads going back to a companion, and they completely contradict each other, and they'll say completely. Just earlier we're talking about the issue of mutta. You'll have in the exact same hadith collections passages saying that it was forbade that Muhammad eventually forbade it, said don't do this anymore, and then you'll have other passages saying Muhammad never forbade it. It was a later Muslim, and they're all sahih. They're all sahih. What's that mean? It means people are making stuff up and attaching isnads that. They're attaching isnads to hadiths that completely contradict each other, and the isnads are set. What's that mean? It means that the entire process can be faked. It can be fudged. You can make things up. Someone's making stuff up at certain points. And even on issues like that, like Joshua Little, he's pointing out, Joshua Little, so lots of Muslims go to him now because he doubts the age of Aisha. A lot of Muslims are ignoring the fact that the reason he doubts the age of Aisha is because he doesn't believe you can trust the hadith in general. He believes there's so much fabrication, so much distortion that it's difficult to get to any true things in there. And his view is Islam, shortly after the time of Muhammad, ended up being regional. So you had one version of Islam around Medina, you had one version of Islam around Kufa, and they had certain things in common, like prayers and so on. But other issues, like you go over here and mutta's allowed. You go over here, mutta's not allowed, and so on. And he says that they basically get into this competition of who can trace their claims back to a companion of Muhammad. So they're cooking up isnads left and right, so that their version of Islam and their position on a matter can be more easily defended. So that's what's going on. And why wouldn't that be the case with Qurans as well, Farid? If you know your Quran in your area has differences from the Quran that someone else is using in a different area, and you want to show, no, my Quran is authentic. This guy's saying it can't be authentic because it differs from his. What, you guys who burn piles of Qurans in order to cover up differences and pretend there are no differences, you guys are the pillars of honesty who would never fabricate a chain. Again, we know for a fact you guys were fabricating Isnad chains. Why? You have completely contradictory things, completely contradictory things that all have sound Isnad chains. So we know the Muslim community would make things up. Oh, but they wouldn't do it with the Quran. Come on. You guys have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I agree with everything that you said. I think he's gonna. I'll probably have something to say for his next comment, though.
Okay.
But the way you said it, yeah, perfect.
To kill his father, and you're a cross-dresser.
Wait a minute. Wait, now he's talking trash about me.
That doesn't really pass
Hang on.
from Isnad to this new Quran that you've come up with. No one's going to be falling for that, because David, you are a Christian that tried to kill his father, and you're a cross-dresser. In all three counts, that doesn't...
Say it correctly, Farid. I'm a cross-dresser when I imitate your fake prophet prancing around in his child bride's nightie. And I know you want to say, oh, there, Thaub means blanket there, or mert, which you look it up means dress. It means something else there. That's fine. You want us to give you the benefit of the doubt. What I'm saying is, my position is, when you guys just flat out make things up about Rebecca being 3 and so on, I'm not gonna encourage people to lie in response like you guys lie about what's in our sources. But I can say, nope, not giving you the benefit of the doubt on anything. So now you're stuck with it. You asked for it, and now you got it. You got it. No more benefit of the doubt. When we read all these hadiths about Muhammad your prophet being covered in semen, we are going to assume that is from Dihya al-Kalbi, if it's from a human at all. When we read about your prophet being in the garments of his wives, we are assuming he is prancing around in their nighties. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. You guys did this.
Yeah, I think he clipped you saying that, but he didn't include the context in one of his other videos. He tried to make it sound like you were saying, "Oh, we're gonna just misrepresent what you guys believe in intentionally," like whatever.
That sounds like Farid.
He took out like the complete first part where you led up to what you were saying, and so. Yeah.
Oh, we should. Oh, go ahead.
Yep.
You really want to go into the characters of the people in the Isnad chains? Do you know what those people got up to?
Yeah.
It will make David in his pre-salvation life look like a saint. Just saying.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into some of these characters that he says are trustworthy, and we'll see if they line up to his standards of what he's laying out here right now.
It'd be interesting to see a clip where he cuts me up, because he did that once before. This was years ago, probably like five or 6 years ago, where I was saying that my main goal at a certain stage is getting the Muslims to respond to something. Like, you bring out an issue. If you bring out an issue like Muhammad and Aisha, my main goal at a certain phase is getting Muslims to respond to it, but acknowledging that it's happening, acknowledging that it happened. And I say, at that point, I don't care what their response is. I don't care how good their response is. I want them to acknowledge that it happened and then give their defense, so that other people who don't know that it really happened are going, whoa, now the Muslim admits that it happened. And so what I was saying was, at that point, I don't care how good the Muslim's response is. I'm trying to get him to acknowledge it. And then Farid clips where I go, I don't care what the response is. He's going, you see, David does not care about our responses and doesn't care about the truth. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the goal at a certain point is getting you guys to admit this stuff. Like with the holes in the narrative, that was, it didn't matter how brilliant Farid's response or explanation of the different kirat were afterwards. It was lame, but even if he came up with a brilliant response, the the key at that point would be acknowledging that there are differences, because that actually exposes a lie. Hang on, I got someone calling me here. Go away, Cameron Bertuzzi. All right.
Really pass the Rijal system, and especially the cross-dresser part, because it's all about ilm al-rijal.
What are you talking about? Your prophet is the pattern of conduct for people. What are you saying? That since I'm not a Muslim, I shouldn't be imitating your prophet? When he says, do not bother me concerning Aisha, for I've not received revelations in any of your garments except Aisha's. Serious question. What?
You need to say the Shahada first, and then it will make it legit.
Then I can dress up in women's clothing like your prophet. That what you're saying, Farid? Okay, I might have to do some artwork. Artwork.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I mean, him just saying that without giving the context to it is exactly what we just described. Like he kind of like clips you and gets you either doing things or saying things without giving the context for it. So yeah, I guess Farid, he is dishonest.
He's
like
a bit too focused on that one video.
Yeah.
He really likes that.
Yeah.
Farid, come on. You don't want to be obsessed over this stuff right after Andrew Tate calls you out for being gay. Come on.
Come on, Farid.
Do you know what Rijal is, by the way?
Fire intro. Fire intro.
Now, before even starting this video, I'd like to make a formal request to David. David, you enjoy responding to my videos so much. So instead of responding to my 12-minute late night chai stream, why don't you respond to my 3-minute challenge video that I put up a while ago? I don't know, maybe you overlooked it.
I went ahead and watched this after Farid, I don't watch most of what you do unless it's just some, hey, let's go ahead and pull up a video by Farid to respond to. So, just went ahead and watched that last night. I have no clue what you were thinking, but we'll go ahead and watch that after we go through this current video. So happy to. Farid, I don't even know what you're talking about in that video. It's really weird, but we'll go ahead and watch that for fun.
And he almost kind of like downplays the video by just saying like, oh, it was a late night stream where I was just drinking tea. Like, well, you put it on your channel, and he acts like you said, like we go around looking for these things. No, people send them to us. They're like, hey, if you want a funny video to react to, you guys can make some great points off of this. Farid says a bunch of stupid things. Like that's the main context of how we get your videos, Farid. Yeah. People telling us like you said a bunch of stupid things.
Does late night and drinking tea like
nullifies
whatever you say and make you so bad that if it's your performance so bad that people shouldn't respond to it? Like I don't see what the late night and chai have to do with anything. Does it make you say lies? Is that the rule?
Yeah, and besides that, there was a reason. We had just said in a live stream, I had said, hey, why do you want to pin all these different Qurans on Allah and say Allah revealed in all these different ways when you could just say you had textual variance over time, because that's what happens when you copy a book by hand. That's what happened. In other words, that's not a bad thing. That's not a huge embarrassment. I don't look at it and go, oh my goodness, they have textual variance. Oh my goodness, this proves that the Quran is false. That thought would never cross my mind. I understand if you have lots of people copying books by hands, they make mistakes. If you have people trying to go to older manuscripts and make copies of those, and some of these words come down to just the place a dot is in. Or you don't have the dots and you're trying to fill in the dots, and different people can fill them in different ways. That's totally fine. I would not even be bringing that up as a criticism if you acknowledged it as just copyist mistakes and so on. I wouldn't think that's a problem. And so that's why I said it. Why don't you guys just do that instead of trying to come up with these absurd mental gymnastics to try and trace it all back to Muhammad and then blame Allah for revealing it in all these ways? That sounds silly and ridiculous. So I was actually trying to help you. And then right after we say that, then a guy brings it up in your live stream or whatever you were doing in your little chai talk. He says, "Hey, why don't we attribute these differences to errors?" So that's why we responded to the video, Farid. We responded it because your answer, I was legitimately wondering, why don't they go this route? And you had a video on it, and then apparently you were drinking chai, so we're not supposed to.
We're supposed to comment.
Yeah. Sorry, Farid. Next time I see you drinking chai, I'll just.
Because you're so busy.
Don't want to interrupt. Tea time.
be cosplaying with Apis all the time. And I'm going
By the way, drink coffee like a man, Farid. Come on.
to keep on bringing this up in my videos because you seem to be intentionally trying to avoid it.
Dawah, ladies and gentlemen.
Intentionally trying to avoid it.
What do you say I'm avoiding?
Yeah, you're intentionally trying to avoid his video. Like I think you just said, you just found out it existed like last night.
The 3-minute one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out that
intentionally
existed last night. So right after downloading this clip, I looked up that video because did I miss some challenge? It was like the dumbest thing ever. I have no idea why he's even bringing it up at this point. Like zero clue.
Yeah.
And you're avoiding it. You're avoiding this. It reminds me of these guys. David is running from me. As someone you never heard of in your entire life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's dodging this video that he didn't know existed.
Said Allah revealed the Quran in 7 ahruf. So that's what. So that's about it. When it comes to that, it's a good answer. That's actually one of the better answers.
No, it's a better answer according to you. It's a stupid answer for anyone else, Farid. Funny.
Yeah, because no one knows what the ahruf are. It's like, yeah, that's a great answer. Okay, so Farid, what are the ahruf? Oh, I don't know. So how do they account for all the differences that you have in the Quran today? Oh, I don't know.
Now, this is one of the stupid...
By the way, it's funny. It's with Muslims not knowing what the different ahruf are, then it's just like, well, since we don't know what they are, we can say they're anything that comes up,
Exactly.
right? Isn't that fun? Isn't that funny? Guys, just keep in mind, those of you who are watching, if you're new to this, Muhammad was informed that some of his followers had a problem and that they're reciting the Quran differently. And then he says, oh yeah, that's because Allah revealed it in a bunch of different ways. Well, he revealed it in 7 ahruf. No one knows what these ahruf are. You have all these differences of opinion among Muslim scholars. So no one knows what they are. But then Farid is stuck with all these different Qurans in different parts of the world and all these different Quran manuscripts and so on. And he wants to blame the differences and say, oh, that's because of the different ahruf. It's like, well, I mean, how would you prove that? And the only evidence is just, well, there were 7 unknown mysterious things, and therefore we can blame all that on any differences. We can just say they go back to that. And yeah, you could believe that. Guess what, Farid? I could say that every textual variant in any manuscript of the Bible all goes back to the 1st century writers. I could say that. And guess what? You could not prove me wrong. There's nothing you could do to prove me wrong. Even if a textual variant only shows up in the 12th century and it's an obvious scribal error or something like that, I could still say, oh, yep, there's a mysterious chain of lost manuscripts that tie that back to the first. Anyone can say these kinds of things, Farid. It's just your entire religion is built upon, well, maybe if I have this silly explanation that makes absolutely no sense, maybe that can account for it, and then you can't prove it. That was powerful. Yeah. That was powerful.
Reasons because I'm saying that the Quran.
What's that?
I was just going to say that analogy you gave was really, really apt because these variants that we have that come much later, Muslims don't actually have any hadith where, I mean, it'd be one thing if you had like a hadith that said, I mean, I don't know how serious we would take it, but if you actually had a hadith where like Muhammad would actually say, okay, here's this version of Al-Fatiha, like you can say Malik or Malik, you can either one, like you have Muhammad saying that, but you don't have him saying that. You don't have any hadith saying that at all. All you have is him saying that there's, 7 ahruf. That's it. What does it mean? Muslim scholars have no idea. And Farid's about to get into what some of the majority opinions are or what some of the, popular opinions are from the Muslim scholars. But they have no idea. And like you pointed out before, that there's an ahruf card that they can use, but they don't know when to use it. And it also doesn't go as far as they want it to go because you start asking them questions like, okay, how many of these ahruf still exist today? Okay. Is just one? Did Uthman burn 6 of them, or did he only burn a few of them, or do all of them exist? And how do these account for all the differences? And you get into all these lines of questions, and they only have one card. It can only answer a certain amount of questions.
As Yasser Qadi said, is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 7?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it seems like Yasser Qadi's position is there's these ahruf, and we don't really know what they are. There are multiple theories, and there's the Uthmanic recension and how it connects, how it serves as the bridge from what was back then to what came later, and then the issue of the different kirat. And he's saying, I don't think there's any actual theory that really makes sense of all of this. He didn't think there's a coherent theory that could be defended on how all of this goes back to Muhammad and how you would do that. Whereas Farid is going, but we don't know, and so you can't prove it because we don't have the ahruf, so they could be anything, so we could say they're anything. Yeah, you can say anything, Farid. Anyone can say, words can come out of your mouth. That's very easy to do. Why should we believe that when it sounds really, really silly? All right, let's see where it goes with this.
Was revealed in multiple modes. And yes, some scholars differed when it came to categorization of those modes. And a very small minority of scholars simply said, we don't know what it means. Most scholars had an idea what it means, and they were clear with what it meant, and the vast majority of them say these are dialects. And just because they're dialects.
Before we get to this part, there's something that I thought he was going to mention this again later on, but he only did it at the beginning. When he starts to get into like the science of men and talks about how, like, you wouldn't qualify because of, you're a Christian and this and that. I was like, well, let's go through some of these biographies of these different men that Muslims accept. And like I said, I thought he was going to bring it up later, but he only brought it up that one time. I'm just remembering now. So I want to show you my screen here. And okay.
Let's see. Let me get that up. All right. Let's
put it on full screen for a second. All right. So these are the readers of the Quran and their different transmitters. Okay. So we have a bunch of them here. We're not going to go through all of the names, but we're just going to focus on a couple of them. And we've done a stream with David before. If you guys want to go back to it, it's about the unreliable transmitters of the Quran. We go over Hafs in particular. And we basically concluded that, like, he's a liar, a thief, a fabricator, et cetera, et cetera. He's getting it from someone who has a bad memory, who's unreliable, who got it from somebody whose Quran was hated, according to At-Tabari. And he also didn't learn the Quran from Uthman, which messes up their whole chain in Hafs's own Isnad itself, which says that he learned it from him. Okay, so let's look at some of these guys in these biographical dictionaries that Farid is talking about, like he's bragging about and saying, hey, we don't let bad guys in, or we don't let these immoral guys in. So let's go over Hamza first. Let's go over Hamza. And we put the Arabic for parts that we thought might be contested, but if any other parts are contested, then we'll get the Arabic and respond in a video or in another stream with David. But this is just Shadi Nasser's translation of this portion relating to Hamza. And what we wanted to point out here is that, we're going to work our way up. So there's a guy called Hamza, and this is one of the readers. And yeah, they're like, yeah, this guy's trustworthy, but his memorization was bad, and he wasn't meticulous in transmitting hadith. And then some hadith scholars prohibited praying behind him, and they criticized his reading, to the point where you have Abu Bakr Shu'bah, which is one of the students of the other student of Asim, which is you have Hafs and Shu'bah. He said that the reading of Hamza was considered bid'ah, innovation, amongst the community of the readers. Okay? And then you have another scholar here saying, I wish that Kufa, remember he mentioned Al-Kufa, if you were in the 2nd century in Al-Kufa, would be purified from the reading of Hamza. So you have these guys talking about Hamza's reading in these negative terms, and what do Muslim scholars go and do? Oh, we're just going to go canonize his reading. Mm-hmm. So, okay, that's one. Anything?
No.
Okay, so
one second. I just want to how this ties together. Even according to the Muslim sources, which came fairly late, they're taking their individual Muslims are taking their recitations pretty darn seriously, right?
Yes.
So Umar's ready to fight Hisham over this. I mean, he's ready to jump on him over reciting reciting a surah differently. Then Uthman, the reason for burning all the Qurans and issuing a standardized version is they're worried about Muslims having division and ultimately fighting over their different recitations of the Quran. And then so he issues his standardized version, and other companions of Muhammad start attacking this. So Ibn Masud says, hide your Qurans. Don't hand them to these guys. Hide them. Hide them. So he's really protective over his own version of the Quran, and he doesn't like the new version of the Quran. So in other words, Farid is acting like it's absurd to say that someone would make up a chain of transmission or something like that, or fabricate a chain of transmission when, wait a minute, these guys are competing. Different areas are obviously competing over their Qurans and criticizing each other's Qurans and saying, my goodness, get rid of that guy's Quran. You need this Quran. But there's no way people would fabricate their isnads.
Yeah, and not only that, but he's also talking about, hey, our biographical dictionaries are so good when it comes to hadith that, you know, you couldn't make up a Quran with a chain using those same guys. And so what happens when we look at those biographical dictionaries?
Bunch of liars.
Yeah, bunch of liars, exactly. Now, watch this one now. We're going to go into Al-Kisai. And this one is, again, we're using Shadi Nasser's translation of it, but we do have the Arabic above in case it's contested. We'll talk about that as well. So, Ibn al-Arabi praised Al-Kisai's knowledge and said he was the most knowledgeable of people. Oh, good.
Nice.
Despite being a liar, impudent, and... Check this part out now.
Hey, that's interesting. He's super knowledgeable, even though he's a liar.
Yeah. And we're going to comment on this word that Shadi Nasser translates this way because it's not like a commonly used word, but if you go to dictionaries, you do get his translation of it there, or that understanding. But we'll comment on that after. He used to consume alcohol and accompany young, beautiful boys.
Bet he did.
Ah.
But yet, he was a great Quran reciter. And also,
Yep.
his Arabic is great, too.
So don't be going after anybody's character and chains, Farid. One of your canonical readings, Kisai, used to do stuff with young boys. But it didn't matter because he's a great reciter, so it's okay.
It's okay. It's all good.
But so what? How can you criticize him for that? Maybe he was just sucking on the tongues of these little boys, the way Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sucked on the tongues of Al-Hassan and Hussein.
Yeah, Farida called it ilm al-rijal, which the literal translation is the science of men, or the study of men. So in this science of men, you're meant to look at men's character.
Yeah.
But here, how come that ilm al-rijal took stuff from Kisai when he was doing stuff with little boys? Exactly. And drinking alcohol.
It's funny that description right there. He was the most knowledgeable of people despite being a liar. That's like a perfect description of like Yasser Qadi, right? He's very knowledgeable, but what a liar.
Yeah, so the word is rahaq, and you find it in the Quran, Surah Al-Jinn, Surah 72, verse 6. It actually means wickedness. So liar is, if you go into all the different
dictionaries and different meanings.
Yeah, liar is one of them, but it can mean wickedness, foolishness, being shameless.
Yeah.
So just in case Farid, you come and say, oh, raqa doesn't mean this. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And it's in your Quran. And you find this little bit in Kitab Mu'jam al-Udaba. Okay, and we've got the volume number and the page up there for you to check it out, Farid.
Yep. Okay, we got another one here. So this one is Hisham. This is one of the transmitters. Okay, and okay, this one's interesting. So it says he would repeat and transmit anything people told him.
Nice.
But
hey, that's like Muhammad. They called him the ear.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I've started the first part says, when he got older, he became senile and started to recite anything that was given to him. He would repeat and transmit anything people told him, but he was more trustworthy when he was younger. Okay. So Hisham transmitted 400 baseless hadith.
Nice.
They don't have any origin to them at all. Yeah.
All with good isnads.
All with good isnads.
So that's what you were talking about,
That's
David. Good isnads mean nothing.
Yes. a man by the name of Fadl Qarazi used to give these hadith to Hisham.
And he did not hesitate to transmit them.
Okay, he almost created a rupture in Islam.
Yeah,
Wow.
so Hisham ibn Ammar, he lived in around the 2nd century to 3rd century. He was the main qari, the main reciter in Damascus, and he was also their sheikh, and he was their muhaddith. He was their main hadith narrator.
This guy who
This guy
transmitted 400.
over the whole of Damascus
Yeah.
in that time.
So, he was dictating hadith one day, and he was asked, "Who gave you this hadith?" He goes, "One of our teachers. One of our teachers." When he was asked again, he yawned and closed his eyes from sleepiness, and then he said. Then we have another Muslim here saying that he decided to stop narrating the hadith of Hisham because he used to sell hadith and get paid for teaching. So he used to stop entirely because of that reason.
Drug dealing and hadith.
Nice.
Now check this part out. I think David's gonna have David and AP can have a lot of fun with this part here. So Ahmed bin Hanbal said,
One second though. So just to be clear, everyone. Farid is defending the idea that all these different qira'at, they go back to Muhammad and they can be accounted for among the aruf by just saying, well, it says that was revealed in different ways, so we can say anything we want about them, and we can say these all go back. And we're sitting here saying, why should we think these all go back? And the response is, but the Isnad chains, and I point out anyone can make up an Isnad chain. And it's, but we have this great methodology. And you're pointing out these are people in these chains of transmission who sound like really horrible, dishonest, messed up people. And this is what we're supposed to look at this and go, yeah, these guys would never make anything up.
yeah, and these basically
Or even be mistaken. This guy who's transmitting all these fake hadiths and so on, he couldn't possibly transmit anything wrong about the Quran or a mistake about the Quran. Anyway, wow.
Yeah, he's basically saying like, David, if you want to make things up about our, different readings and stuff, and you want to attribute change, you're gonna have to compete with these guys.
Yeah, in terms of character, because ilm al-rijal, the science of men, obviously missed all these big signs.
Yeah. So Ahmed bin Hanbal said Hisham was fickle and frivolous. Now check this part out. One day, he was sitting in public while his private parts were visible.
Sounds
A
like
man
Muhammad.
told him, "Cover yourself." Hisham responded, "Have you seen it?" Meaning his private part. God willing, your eyes will never suffer from
Like conjunctivitis.
conjunctivitis.
Yeah, the old word for it. Like, your eyes will never be sore now that you've seen my thing.
Yeah, he's basically saying, you're blessed that you've seen my private part. That's what he's saying.
That reminds me of Muhammad, like, oh, you drank my pee? You'll never have a stomach problem ever again. It's a miracle. But this guy's saying, he's got his miraculous penis.
Yeah. And then Ibn Hanbal said,
Cross-dressing doesn't sound so bad now, does it?
That's what these guys. Yeah, imagine this, Farid. You got your favorite. You got the heroes of your faith transmitting the Quran. They're sitting around with their junk hanging out and going, now you will be miraculously healed from any eye problems. Hey, your vision's going straight from 2400 to 2010. Because you have looked upon my genitals. Come on, these are the guys transmitting your Quran that we have to mindlessly trust, Farid.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Ibn Hanbal is reported as saying that one must repeat the prayer if it was led by Hisham. Interesting. So the part that we thought might have been contested.
We've got the Arabic.
We've got the Arabic here, so it says what it's translated as, but we have the sources here. Al-Mizzi, Jamal al-Din, and then Ibn Kathir. These are the authors. And
guess what the first one is called? Kitab Tahdhib al-Kamal fi Asma' al-Rijal. It's a book about these men, the names of these men, and how and their character of completion.
Yes. Perfect.
Perfection.
Yes. And similarly,
hey, the only thing that's missing is, and indeed, after I saw his penis, my eyes were perfect for the rest of my life. That's all that's missing.
Yep. So I just wanted to, that's what we wanted to share so far for that. because
Nice,
Farid
nice.
made a big point. He made a big point about that. Hey, David, you would never be able to be one of our guys because this and
You're
that.
not good enough.
You're not good enough. But
maybe he meant you're not bad enough.
maybe
You don't go far enough.
You don't go far enough. So
I'd love to hear your response to this part. Farid.
Please respond to this, Farid. Please respond to this. And
we love Farid. He keeps addressing this stuff. And for any Farid fans who are watching right now, I'm dead serious about that. At the end of the day, I do respect people who are actually trying to interact with the response instead of just running and claiming everything's a lie and making excuses and saying, "Oh, he doesn't deserve a response because we don't take him seriously." All these, the 5 Ds of Dawah, 2 of them are dodge. But Farid actually tries to answer. He kind of misses a lot of what's like. He's still claiming that all these go back. Has he made a video responding to like the contradictions that you've brought up?
No, not that I know of, but I'm glad you brought that up because it's very telling what he did respond to, because we said a bunch of stuff in that stream, and you'd think that he's just going to respond to the points that he thinks he can address the best. We said a bunch of things, including contradictions, and he just left that go unchecked. So I mean, he must have seen it, but he didn't give a response. I wonder why.
Okay, so you have a request. You have a request for 2 things now. 1, respond to the information you just shared about these amazingly, shockingly evil Hadith Quran transmitters that he trusts completely and we don't. And we're saying, why should we trust these guys when your own sources say all this messed up stuff about these guys being into little boys and being liars and having terrible memories and saying, look, ladies and gentlemen, I got the cure. I got the cure for glaucoma right now. Yeah. So 1, you have a request from Giant DoC to respond to that stuff, but also, Farid, you should be responding to the contradictions that they've shown in different versions of the Quran. So, for example of what we're talking about, Farid, you know this because you watch everything we say. When you go to one version of the Quran and it's Lot's wife stayed behind, did not go out with them. And you go to another version of the Quran and it's no, she went out with them. Okay, that's a contradiction. Either she stayed or she left. She couldn't have done both. So explain how you think both those things. And by the way, Farid, that was the basis of saying, why not just say that it's a mistake, a scribal error? Because if you don't say it's a scribal error and you say, no, these all go back to Muhammad, okay, then you're saying that it was the Quran was revealed in a series of contradictions. Is that what you want to say? Is that what you want to pin? I'm trying to help you avoid accusing Allah of being completely contradictory here. And it's like, you're like, no, I want to accuse Allah. I want to. I can't accuse a man, mere human being, of making a mistake, so I'll say that God did. That sounds insane to us, Farid. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair, right? He's challenging you to watch that video and respond to it. You said, hey, we're going to watch the video after this. No problem. No one's running from it. You just found out about it last night.
Tit for tat, Farid. Tit for tat.
Yeah. So,
don't intentionally avoid it, Farid.
Yeah, so chapter 11, verse 81, specifically with what Ash-Shanqiti said with it as well. Respond to that. And chapter 10, verse 16. Did Allah will or did he not will to make it known?
And make sure not to be drinking chai or having a late night.
Yeah.
So that we can actually, we'll be allowed to then review it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're allowed to respond. Farid, please, we need your permission, buddy. We need your permission.
And
Doesn't mean
those
that they're
both
limited
came up on
to
the last
dialogue.
stream.
What's that?
So I was just going to say that those both came up on the last stream, and so he saw them, he just let them slide. I'd love if he responded to that.
So why is Farid dodging these powerful arguments? Intentionally dodging these arguments.
But they would include words that would have different meanings. Now, this is, again, an issue of categorization. At the end of the day, everyone is in agreement that Muhammad, peace be upon him, recited in different modes. It doesn't matter how you label the modes.
Yeah, that's terrible, guys. That's terrible, everyone who's watching. So just to recap once again, this was supposedly, if you trust the hadiths on this issue, then this was supposedly brought up during Muhammad's time. Hey, why are we reciting the Quran differently? There is a perfectly simple, easy to understand explanation.
True.
Namely, Muhammad's memory was not perfect, and so he made mistakes over time. Muslims don't want to say that. And Muhammad didn't want to admit that. And so Muhammad, according to these hadiths, said, oh yeah, Allah revealed it in these different ways, these different ahruf. He revealed it in these different ways.
Also, David claims that these are mistakes.
So Farid's about to, I guess, defend the memory of Muhammad. Let's see.
Yeah. Wait. Did he say? Because I might have missed it, but did he say already the part about? Most scholars say ahruf are dialects. Did he get it?
No,
He didn't get into that yet.
No.
Okay.
By Muhammad, peace be upon him. Okay, fair enough. You can claim that. But David, you see, when you're saying that, you're agreeing with me that Muhammad, peace be upon him, recited in multiple ways. And that's
Farid. Look at what he just said here. Look at what he just said here. This is kind of funny. So, multiple possibilities, ladies and gentlemen. When you have Quran variants, and then you have hadiths talking about different recitations of the Quran, you have multiple possibilities. One, it's possible that you had the Quran and that it kind of mutates over time and you end up with different versions of the Quran. And then they fabricate hadiths saying, oh, didn't you know it was revealed in different ways? So that's one possibility, which I would be open to. If you say that this goes back, that this hadith is actually authentic, that these hadiths are actually authentic. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and pull it up real quick.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and pull it up. This is in a bunch of different versions. I grabbed one. Let's go and check this out. So this is Sahih al-Bukhari 2419, narrated Umar bin al-Khattab. I heard Hisham bin Hakim bin Hizam reciting Surat al-Furqan, so that's Surah 25, in a way different to that of mine. Allah's Messenger had taught it to me in a different way. So he hears Hisham, Umar hears Hisham reciting the Quran, and Umar's like, wait a minute, I heard it from Muhammad himself, who taught it to me in a different way. So this guy's reciting the Quran in a way that is different from what I was taught by Muhammad. So I was about to quarrel with him during the prayer, but I waited till he finished. Then I tied his garment round his neck and seized him by it. So guys, he's pretty serious about differences in the recitation of the Quran, and brought him to Allah's Messenger and said, I have heard him reciting Surat al-Furqan in a way different to the way you taught it to me. The Prophet ordered me to release him and asked Hisham to recite it. When he recited it, Allah's apostle said, it was revealed in this way. So when Hisham recited it, which is different from the way Umar was reciting it, Muhammad said, yeah, it was revealed in this way. Then he asked me to recite it. When I recited it, he said, it was revealed in this way. The Quran has been revealed in 7 different ways. So recite it in the way that is easier for you. So Farid's response is, but you're agreeing with me that Muhammad recited it in different ways. Farid, I'm saying, if this hadith is authentic, you have so many freaking problems here. I mean, you have so many different problems, which we brought out, and you're responding to very few of them. But notice, so here you have Hisham, who converted after the conquest of Mecca. So this is towards the end. Neither Umar nor anyone else seems to have any clue about all these different versions of the Quran until they find out that people are reciting the Quran in different ways. And then suddenly Muhammad, hey, don't you know I've been revealing it in 7 different ways. They only find out after they see the problem. So you've got that, other problems that we already talked about. If you say that these are different dialects, Hisham and Umar are same tribe. They spoke the same dialect. They spoke the Qurayshi dialect. So you have all these different problems, and it just makes it absurd. And it's part of a pattern in Muhammad's behavior that, like the issue of abrogation, like other issues, matter of fact, like the issue of the 2 Marys in the Quran. Muhammad doesn't say, when the Quran calls Mary the sister of Aaron, when it calls Mary the mother of Jesus, the sister of Aaron and the daughter of Imran, here's what's going on. He doesn't say that. It's not until Christians raise the objection, hey, what, is your prophet stupid? He thinks these are the same two people. These two people are the same person. It's only after that that he comes up with his explanation. So why does he always come up with an explanation, and a stupid explanation, after the problem is pointed out to him? Why? How was no one aware of this stuff before it gets brought up as a criticism? So that's the issue. That's the issue, Farid. You guys have any thoughts on this before we jump back to Farid?
Yeah, like you pointed out, there's a bunch of issues that you can take out with this hadith here, but I think I'll save it because it's going to come up later, and when he tries to say like these are just different dialects.
Aha, we have the different dialects.
Enough for me. Now, if you want to argue that Muhammad, peace be upon him, didn't know the difference between king and owner, and he would mix up the word.
Look at what Farid just did there. Did you guys catch that? So I pointed out that if you have an authentic hadith here, then my theory would be, if that is authentic, my theory would be that Muhammad delivered Surah 25 to Umar, and then, because that's a Meccan surah, so that's a long time before Hisham is hearing it, and that maybe Muhammad got some things wrong. Maybe it changed in Muhammad's mind by the time you get to after the conquest of Mecca. So you're talking about a long time later. Could Muhammad have not had a perfect memory about it? Could he have just recited it differently when he's explaining to Hisham how to recite it? Could that have changed? It seems entirely plausible. It seems completely entirely plausible to me to say that. What did Farid just do? Look at what he just did. Then he says, oh, so David is acknowledging that Muhammad was reciting the Quran in different ways. And so would Muhammad really not have known the difference between king and owner? I didn't say that's the origin of that. That was, Farid believes that king and owner both go back to Muhammad. I'm not saying that. Guys, in other words, I was talking about a difference in Surah 25. There's a difference in Surah. These guys were reciting Surah 25 differently. I said, maybe Muhammad had a bad memory. Farid then jumps to, David is acknowledging that Muhammad recited in different ways, and therefore he's agreeing that Muhammad was reciting basically all the differences in the Qiyat and so on back then. Exactly. No. I've never even thought that, Farid, let alone claimed that. I don't believe that those differences go back to Muhammad. I believe that some differences very plausibly go back to Muhammad and his faulty memory. I'm not saying that all the differences in the Qur'an, because Farid, some of them are just like putting a dot in a different place and it gives you a different word. It seems very, very clear where those sorts of things came from. You want to say even those go back to Muhammad. But let's go back to what he was saying here, just so I didn't misrepresent him. Allah revealed it in these different ways, these different ahruf. He revealed it in these different ways.
Also, David claims that these are mistakes by Muhammad, peace be upon him. Okay, fair enough, you can claim that. But David, you see, when you're saying that, you're agreeing with me that Muhammad, peace be upon him, recited in multiple ways. And that's good enough for me. Now,
wow.
Yeah.
Me saying your prophet had a faulty memory, which we know from your Muslim sources, your prophet had a faulty memory, and therefore, over time, he recited things differently. Guys, it's just like if I write a poem right now and you ask me to recite it 5 years from now and I get something different or something like that. Farid says he's fine with that. He's fine with me saying that Muhammad misremembered some of his own things, and Farid's fine with that because I'd be acknowledging that Muhammad recited the Quran in different ways. Yeah, I have no problem with that, Farid. And I think it's probably true because of hadiths like this. I think that's so I think Muhammad probably was forgetting passages, forgetting verses, and so on, and also changing verses over time. Matter of fact, Farid, we know Muhammad's changing verses over time because you have things that are being abrogated, like Surah 33, verse 6. that Muhammad is a father to them, and then they take that out, and so we know changes like that are going on. And what about other kinds of changes where Muhammad just doesn't have a perfect memory? Because we know from your sources that he didn't have a perfect. We know from your sources that he would forget things. So I don't have a problem with any of that. But Farid, that's not that you're a million miles away from me saying all the differences in the Qiyat go back to Muhammad. Not saying that at all. That seems insane to me. That seems absolutely insane. In other words, when you have a bunch of differences that are, it's clearly something that you would attribute to a scribal error. And you want to say, no, that goes back to Muhammad. All right, there you have to show us. There you have to show us. So don't conclude that that's what I'm thinking.
Exactly. And to suggest that because you said Muhammad had a faulty memory, and then Farid takes that as, oh, so all of the variant readings go back to Muhammad. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's what Farid thinks is like a got you question, though. He's like, so do these go back to Muhammad? Do you think he's forgetful? And he actually thinks that justifies his position. That's like, hey, even these Islamophobes or these Western academics, even they're saying that these go back to Muhammad, but they're just not saying it's divine. They're saying he's forgetful. No, what we're saying is, not that I'm in, those groups, like I'm not a Western academic, but I'm just saying what people are like David and us, what we're saying here is that the origins of the variant readings have lots of different reasons. Okay, you had some Muslims that were arguing about legal issues, and maybe one wanted to argue this point. Well, if you read the Quran this way, you could argue it that way. Legal issues, theological issues. There's debates between the Mu'tazila and the other Muslims where like the Sunnis, yeah, right, and they were basically arguing like origins of evil, like does Allah create evil, or is evil something that they're having debates, and so some that were appealing to some readings of the Quran that were read in one way that Sunni Muslims now reject. But what I'm saying is they appeal to readings or made up readings maybe to justify their positions for certain things, just like with hadith. They would just make up hadith and traditions and make these chains up to justify their positions. Also, yeah, ambiguity in the script. You can read this word a bunch of different ways. And in some cases, I think that Shadi Nasser documented that there are some words like across all the corpus of the literature, not just the canonical readings, but of course all the corpus of the readings, like canonical and non-canonical. You have like one word that can be read like 44 different ways. So, I mean,
did Muhammad say all them?
Did Muhammad say it all? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's been quite deceptive. He's muddying the waters. Just because we said that he might have forgotten about that hadith about Surah 25 doesn't mean we mean everything. Like he mentioned Malik and Malik in Surah 1.
Yeah.
If he can bring me any hadith, authentic hadith, where Muhammad said it Malik to one companion and Malik to another, I would believe him, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So he extrapolates it over all the differences, which are hundreds of thousands, which is very deceptive.
And again, mind you, he thinks that the only variants of that verse are just Malik and Malik. That's it. But actually, as we showed in the last stream, there's actually 21 different ways, and just and the literature that we have access to, we have 21 different ways to read that one word. 21 different ways. So it's not just, oh, did Muhammad say it like this or did he say it like that? It's like, well, there's actually a whole bunch of other ways that he could have said it like this or could have said it like that. Maybe he was very forgetful. Maybe he was. In fact, why don't we put this up on the screen, David? We have a couple of sources we want to go through about Muhammad's his memory.
Yeah.
What?
So, I thought his memory was perfect. He's a prophet.
Yeah.
And people around him, all perfect memories, right? Oral transmission.
Yeah, so here's the verse of Abrogation, chapter 2, verse 106. And guess what? There's variant readings in it.
Variant readings in the verse of Abrogation? Wow.
Allah said, we do not cause a verse to be forgotten. There's a various reading, not just a variant reading, not just nunsiha, but nunsiha, which means from causing you to forget to whatever verse we abrogate or we make you forget. That is, we erase from your heart. So Allah has actually promised or suggested a promise that he will make Muhammad forget. So how can you say that he doesn't forget?
It's a great get out of jail free card. Like whenever, because there's times when Muhammad forgot things and he's like, oh, I was caused to forget that. So here's a hadith narrated Aisha. Allah's messenger heard a man reciting the Quran at night and said, "May Allah bestow mercy on him, as he has reminded me of such and such verses of such and such surahs, which I was caused to forget." So
this is huge. This one's really, there's so many problems with this as well.
Yeah, I guess we could play Farid's game here. We could say, hey, Muhammad did forget verses. You attribute it to the divine, Farid. You attribute it to the divine and say, Allah caused him to forget. And we're just saying, well, we agree he forgot, but it's not due to, the devil made me do it or whatever. It's like he just forgot because he had a bad memory. So I guess we could flip the script on him and kind of, use his own logic against him here.
Yeah. So which verses were forgotten?
Yeah.
He forgot. He can't tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
this
we
is
have another. Yeah.
Oh no! I just wanted to point out from this, guys. Think about the insanity here, right? So, you had a problem in the early Muslim community, clearly, where people were forgetting verses, right? People are definitely forgetting verses. That's a thing that happened, right? But Muhammad, so people would say, "Hey, I remember we were reciting some verses. What's going on? What's going on with those verses? Doesn't anyone remember?" And Muhammad's explanation for that is abrogation. Allah caused you to forget those things. So Allah miraculously caused the entire community. So guess what? If the entire community forgets a verse, it was a pretty straightforward, simple, easy to understand explanation. It's human memories easily forget things. And if you guys aren't doing it, if you're trying to preserve something from memory, you need to constantly keep it in mind or you're going to forget some of it. So perfectly easy explanation, but Muhammad declares that when the Muslim community, everyone forgets a verse, they all forget it. What happened? Oh, Allah made you forget it because he abrogated it. Okay, Farid would be fine with that explanation. We would not be. We would think that's stupid and ad hoc, right? But think about the absurdity here. So when Allah causes Muhammad to forget something, then what? Allah's obviously abrogating it, right?
Well, not in this hadith, because another man was reciting it, and Muhammad was like, "Oh, great! May Allah bestow mercy on him. He reminded me."
So he was just temporarily caused to forget it. So
so Allah made the other man remember.
Yeah.
So guys, So Allah caused Muhammad to forget a verse. That would sound like Allah's abrogating it, but then it didn't work. Even though Allah managed to cause Muhammad, even Muhammad, the great Muhammad, the walking Quran, even though he got Muhammad to forget the verse, this other guy didn't forget it. So Allah was powerless to make this guy forget. His memory was too strong. But then, this is the insane part, the most insane part, because there are like 5 layers of insanity here. Then Muhammad thanks the guy. Thank you for reminding me of the verse that Allah caused me to forget. Allah made me forget the verse because Allah wanted it erased from my memory, but you have reminded me of that which Allah made me forget. Thank you. What do you mean, thank you? You should have been like, what are you doing? Trying to overpower Allah here? You're exposing Allah and making him look stupid and weak by overpowering his ability to make us forget things. What's wrong with you? Instead, it's thank you for bringing that verse to my memory after Allah erased it. What is this? And so Muslims, this is the guy whose memory is so perfect that if he reveals something in Mecca, there's no way it changes years later. No way. This guy's perfect memory. Well, Allah made me forget that. Allah made me do it.
Yeah, I mean, so Farid acts like it's like an impossibility, or you're saying something absolutely insane to suggest that Muhammad could have possibly forgot the Quran, and he like goes on that point as if he's got something. But no, you don't have anything. You don't have anything, Farid. And this is also where the theory of abrogation, how it gets a little wacky and wild amongst different Muslim interpreters of what does that mean. So, for example, there's the codices of different companions, such as Ubay, for example, who had, 2 extra surahs of the Quran. And you have some Muslim scholars who acknowledge, they say, actually, yeah, those actually were surahs of the Quran. But they were abrogated, and Ubay just never got around to, erasing them or something. But wait a minute. Then that gets rid of the theory that says when Allah abrogates, he causes everybody just collectively to forget it. So this hadith and that if that's actually the position, which I guess there's tons of positions on what's going on with Ubay there and the other companions who had the extra chapters in their Qurans. But that's one of the ways Muslims try to understand it. And they say, well, things can be abrogated, but, sometimes people can still remember these things. But see, what Muhammad's reaction here is, he doesn't say that this thing's abrogated. He just says, you reminded me and I was caused to forget it. You don't get any implication or indication that he's just going to forget about this now. We're not going to reset it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another one here.
Yeah, this one, Muhammad was leading the prayer and he recited Surah number 30, Surah Al-Rum, and he confused some of it.
Oopsie.
Wait, what? I thought Farid said it's impossible for Muhammad to confuse things or to... Oh, but Satan made him do it, right?
Right.
Oh, okay.
So the Arabic is فَلَبَسَ عَلَيْهِ بَعْضُهَا. Some of it got mixed up in his mind. He said, indeed, Satan, Shaitan, confused our reading because some people...
Oh, it's their fault.
...who came to prayer without ablution, without wudu. So if you come to prayer, do the wudu well. Do the ablution well.
So if you don't wash
that wudu that you do so well.
Yeah, so if you don't wash yourself properly, you don't do your proper purification, you could cause Muhammad to mix up and confuse things, which something that Farid thinks is impossible, and he attributes it to Satan. So before he attributes it to Allah caused me to forget this, and now he's saying, oh, actually Satan made me mix this one up. He made me forget actually how the surah goes. He confused me. And guess what? It's Hassan.
Yeah. You find, and Albani
graded
is
it.
the grader.
So guys, think about this. Hey, Muhammad, why'd you forget that? Allah made me forget that. Hey, why'd you confuse this? Oh, Satan made me do that, and it's your fault. Your fault because you didn't do your washings correctly. So in order to punish you, Allah allowed Satan to confuse me about the Quran. This is the guy who's like airtight memory, could never
Can't
come up with
question
a different Surah 25 over time.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, that's all we wanted to show for that.
Seriously, Farid?
Yeah.
Go and respond to that stuff too, Farid, while you're at it. So now we have three topics for you. So Muhammad's clearly, according to your own sources, faulty memory. He would forget things. He would have to be reminded of things, and then he would mix up things and then blame Satan. So if a Muslim shows up and he hasn't done his washings properly, then Allah would remove his barrier of protection from Muhammad, and Satan could trick Muhammad into messing up the Quran. Good.
Hey, David, isn't that kind of like someone, bearing the sin of somebody else? Like somebody commits a sin and someone else has to pay the punishment for it?
Yeah. Muhammad was punished for you not washing properly.
So interesting.
Farid, so that's another example of what we're talking about, that after it's pointed out to him, hey, Muhammad, you don't even know what you're talking about, dude. We remember the Quran better than you do. And it's, that's because you guys didn't wash up properly. And I would know because I've still got semen all over my clothes, but maybe I didn't do it. That's why Satan's really overpowering the Quran here. It's like, Farid, if Muhammad only had to use this kind of explanation once, then maybe we'd let him slide. It's over and over and over again that people point out something. Hey, this guy who learned the Quran from you is reciting the Quran differently from this guy who learned the Quran from you. What gives? Oh yeah, Allah revealed it in all those different ways. Hey, Muhammad, you're talking about Mary, the mother of Jesus, being the sister of Aaron and the daughter of Imran. That's a different Mary. Don't you know that's a different Mary? Oh, yeah. Because here's what happened. You see, back then they would call people by the name of some famous religious person. And he always explains these things after the problem gets, hey, why does your prophet say one thing and then 2 weeks later he says something? Oh yeah, that's because Allah, he changes his revelations. He comes up with something better. He comes up with something better than his already eternal speech there. And then also connected to the issue of abrogation. Oh, if we all forget something, hey, we all forgot the verse, Muhammad, what are we doing right now? Oh yeah, because Allah caused us to forget. Sometimes he makes us forget things because that's his way of getting rid of them. Oh, guess what? I just forgot a verse. Allah must have wiped it from my memory. Oh, but that guy over there still remembers it. Thank you for reminding me of that which Allah caused me to forget. It's over and over and over again, Farid. It's like, is there any limit? If that's all Muhammad did all day was make excuses for all the problems and mistakes, and that was 100% of everything he ever did, would you still just believe him? Because we're looking at this going, I mean, this guy's obviously making this up as he goes along. I mean, obviously, more than anyone else I can think of in all of history, this guy is more obviously making this up as he goes along. I don't know what to do. If you don't see it, I don't even know what to do. If you're just going to, no, I will mindlessly trust him no matter what. Okay, I can't stop you from doing that. It just seems insane and idiotic.
As long as there's a chain.
Yeah, you can't prove that the Ahruf don't explain all of this.
We want to argue that Muhammad, peace be upon him, didn't know the difference between king and owner, and he would mix up the words king and owner.
That was later.
And he would mix up alayhim and alayhum, and these are just different dialects.
Guys, everyone listen to what he just said. How could Muhammad be confused about king and owner? One, as we said, not our position. That's a later confusion. Guys, to anyone who's listening to this right now, they're thinking, yeah, how would anyone confuse king and owner? Why don't you guys give us the Arabic for king and owner in Surah Al-Fatiha?
So king is Malik and owner is Malik.
Malik.
Yep.
How could anyone confuse?
I would say they're completely different.
Yeah. So everyone who's watching, isn't it interesting that the confusion over the word is over two things that sound very, very, very similar?
I also want to say, not even necessarily Muhammad confused them, but the hearers. Let's say somebody's accent or something, like, they heard it like, did he say Malik or Malik? I mean, it's like literally like a ultra second of like a extra pronunciation of a like that's
yes, it's very easily confused.
Yeah, and you have the Quran, it's spreading to different areas. You've pointed out people have different accents. They might not pick up on the correct version, but then you have the Quran spreading to other people in different lands who are having to learn Arabic as a second language to learn the Quran. It's like, seriously, no one could have ever mistaken those two words, Farid. It has to go back to Muhammad. And it just coincidentally is two words that sound very, 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 very similar.
Yeah,
but Muhammad revealed it in those different ways.
He has to provide evidence for this, that Muhammad said it this way and that way to this companion and that companion. If he provides that evidence, I'll be with you, but he doesn't. So that leads us to believe, like you say, it's a later confusion. And that makes sense.
Yeah, even the other example he gives,
alayhim.
Like, okay, I mean, let's say even if Muhammad said it one way, someone who comes from like a certain area where they pronounce it like hum instead of him, they might have just started using it like that. And you actually have a position within Islam, within Sunni Islam, because the Shia have completely different views on this stuff. They think that there's only one harf, there's not seven. They think that, eventually when the Mahdi comes, that he's going to, restore the Mus'haf of Ali and, whatever else. So they have a completely different view. But even within Sunni Islam, you have this idea of, did Muhammad necessarily say all of these things, or did he just make it permissible for, like, did he give a license for people to say it in these different ways? So even the people who accept all the words that Farid thinks, Muhammad authorized, they say, hey, you know what? He didn't necessarily say it all of these different ways, but he gave license or authority for people to say it in those different ways. So, I mean, even within the Sunni tradition, you have this position.
Yeah. So, guys, something DoC there was pointing out very important, that there's a difference between Farid saying, oh, well, Muhammad said it's revealed in 7 different ways. So any differences we can just say, go back to that. There's a big difference between this sort of catch-all thing. Oh, he said 7 different ways. We don't know what they are. Therefore, we can say anything. We can say anything about those things that we want. There's a big difference between that and saying and providing evidence that Muhammad recited Surat al-Fatiha in these multiple ways with these different words. So Farid isn't offering any evidence that Muhammad recited the Quran in those different ways, that those variants go back to Muhammad. He's just saying, oh, 7 ways, therefore we can, anything you want. You could have completely different verses. You could say, oh, those all go back to that. So, but that's not the same as providing evidence. It's just like an escape hatch if you have no evidence. So Farid has no evidence that these things actually go back to Muhammad, but he's got this sort of escape route. Well, 7 ways, and therefore I can say that it goes back with, right, you can say anything, Farid. I could make a difference right now and mistake. Could you say that it goes back to Muhammad? Yes, you could. You could easily say that. That's the point for you. And I could say, it was in the prove to me that my different Quran wasn't in the what doesn't go back to the 7 ahruf. You can't prove it. The question would be, David, what evidence do you have that it actually goes back? So Farid, what evidence do you have that variants in, let's say, Surat al-Fatiha go back to Muhammad? What's your evidence? We haven't seen any. We've just seen you making excuses, which happens to be exactly what your prophet would do in that situation. So good job imitating your prophet.
I think his only response to that is that it would be impossible to get a whole Muslim community, like let's say this region of the Muslim world, all reciting it that one way, and then another all reciting another way. And it's like he actually thinks that that's actually a good reason to believe that they must go back to Muhammad, because you have a whole community saying it one way and a whole community saying another way.
It's not impossible.
Why did Uthman, why did he have these other Qur'ans burnt? Because you had one community, so you had the exact situation, but those were apparently they were inauthentic, or he didn't think that they were, I mean, because look, if the ahruf are supposed to be things that make it easy for believers, and if one of the things that Uthman was doing was burning the ahruf, well, who is he to burn something that Allah makes an easement or a mercy for believers? That doesn't make, I mean, how did he make sense of that, Farid? But again, if the answer to the question, because I think that's how we would answer it, would be like, okay, this whole Muslim region, like this whole state or whatever, all pronounce it this way, and this whole state pronounce it that way. How could they get it back to Muhammad? I mean, how could it not go back to Muhammad? And I'm just like, man, there's so many problems with that.
Yeah, there are, and especially that, and this is what Sheikh Yasser Qadhi was bringing up. It's so, guys, you have a couple of big milestone issues here. You have whatever the ahruf were. Then you have Uthman trying to cleanse and purify the text. And then later on you have the Qiraat and so on. And so the idea is for someone like Farid, and this is what Yasser Qadhi was denying, saying you can't say all these differences in the Qiraat to actually go back to these ahruf and so on. And so what are you going to say about these things? And Farid, no, we can say that the Qiraat go back. Okay, but think about the problem. If Uthman is specifically burning the differences, if he's burning the manuscripts to cover up the differences, then there's the question of how come you still have the differences later? And so it's, they must have been in those various editions of the Uthmanic Codex. So he releases, he's either those manuscripts actually have the variants in them. In other words, it says one way to read this is this, and one way to read that is that, or the standardized versions he's issuing have differences among them. So this one's different from that one, is different from that one, and so on. If that's the case, why would he do that? If the entire purpose of burning them all was to get rid of the differences, so Muslims are completely united, that's the point. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Why is he burning all these? To get rid of the differences, so there's no differences in the reading of the Quran. Okay, why do you have differences later? Oh, because Uthman kept all those different. Wait, what? Why is he burning them all? To get rid of the differences. Why are there differences later? Because he kept the differences. What? How are you not getting this, Farid? This sounds complete. Every level of your argumentation sounds completely ridiculous and insane. That's what was pointed out to Yasser Qadhi by Western academics, and he says, we know they're right because they're quoting our sources to us.
Exactly.
And Farid doesn't get it, and he thinks, oh, this makes perfect sense to me. Ahruf, the 7 ahruf, so I can just say I don't even know what to do at this point. Let's take a couple super chats too. I need to take a shower every time I listen to this nonsense, but Juan says, I don't know why these Muslims, Muhammad, take Farid seriously, never debated anyone and probably never will. God bless. Yeah, again, it's not, you don't have to debate, but if your arguments are stupid and all your points sound like completely ridiculous, then that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yes.
And I think Farid knows that if he were to, that's some people don't want to debate because they're just not debaters. And guess what? Some people, you could be a brilliant scholar and not be a great debater. You might not be a good communicator. You might not be quick. So that's understandable. But other people, they don't want to debate because deep down, they don't think their arguments would actually stand up to scrutiny.
Yes.
And I don't think Farid would actually want to sit down in a conversation with me, let alone with you guys. You know way more about this issue. I think he knows that would just be a complete disaster. So it's a different reason. There are acceptable reasons for not debating. Farid's seems to be, he knows this stuff would not work. Jai DoC doing good job exposing Muhammad hijab scams. Sorry, the acts of hijab Allah is making appear like scams. Highly recommend. Love you, David.
Have you been keeping up with that, by the way?
Yeah.
No, I watched the original video, and I told AP, I'm like, I don't really care about making a deal out of it. I always assumed all these guys were running scams behind the scenes.
So his dad's website has quote unquote professional diplomas from London, and he has courses like airplane courses, petroleum,
Pharmacology, physiology,
all sorts of things.
every single human skill on earth. Mimi Hijab's dad teaches in his fake college. He called it the Cambridge Training College of Britain.
Yes.
Even though he doesn't live in Cambridge, nothing to do with Cambridge. He just stole the prestigious name.
And so he calls himself professor. So on our live stream, we went to his LinkedIn page where it says that he got an honorary professor from University of Manchester, which he spelled Manchester wrong. But okay. So we went to their database where they show their alumni and honorary degrees, honorary professorships, things like that. He didn't show up at all. So a week later, we remembered that we wanted to show something on his LinkedIn page that we didn't show. To our surprise, we go on there and honorary professor is completely gone.
He removed it.
So Muhammad Hijab must have seen the stream and he went and edited his dad's LinkedIn page and he removed it. And so we started thinking, okay, if he did that, what is he hiding? Like, what's he trying to hide? Because we weren't going to do anything else past that. We just wanted to show, like, this guy's an honorary professor from a university that, he doesn't even spell correctly. And then he removes it. So we're thinking, like, okay, what's going on here? So
we did mock him mercilessly, though.
Yeah, a lot of spelling mistakes.
For a professor, guess what? Of teaching the English language.
Yeah, he's an English professor.
He couldn't spell.
Gabrielle in the chat says he has a PhD in Taqiya.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is called the Cambridge Training College.
Nice.
Now Muhammad Hijab, he happens to run.
Hang on.
Cambridge.
I want everyone to understand. This would be like me here in the U.S. coming up with some diploma from Harvard, right? And I call it Harvard. I call it the Harvard Diploma Academy. And so it's not saying the same. I'm not saying Harvard University. I'm saying the Harvard Education Academy or something because of the word Harvard. People think, oh, that's Harvard University and so on. And then people message me and say, hey, I need a diploma in this, and I say no problem, and I send them out their certificate, and I say, okay, give me $1,200, and I'll send you your certificate from Harvard. So it's something like that. That's what was going on.
Yeah, and on their certificate it says this is authenticated by the College of Britain, and we're like, okay,
which one?
How many thousands?
Not only that, someone got in touch with the University of Cambridge, and they said we have no association with them, and
they have no degree awarding powers in the UK.
The Department of Education also says they're not recognized.
So
they're scamming people, basically.
So then we're like, all right, we thought that was it, but then because Muhammad Hijab edited his dad's LinkedIn page, we're assuming it's him because his dad's like 75 years old, so we're guessing it's not him editing it.
And guess who was the director of his dad's company, training college, for 8 years?
Muhammad Hijab.
Yes, he is. We got evidence on that all on our streams.
So Cambridge Training College, and he has a very unique logo, which is kind of like a ripoff of Cambridge's logo, but of course they took away the cross.
And they put a crescent.
Yeah, they put a crescent.
But they kept everything else.
So Muhammad Hijab's Cambridge Arabic training Cambridge Arabic College or something like that. It's very similar name, no association with Cambridge at all. So we're like, all right, is Muhammad Hijab trying to hide something? Now, of course, like kind of like our response was like yours at first. We're like, okay, well, this is just like they're just scammers or whatever. Now, we linked it to Islam in our stream. So if you guys want to check it out, do check out those streams. How does that link into Islam? Scamming people, lying to people. We always try to make those connections because we want to also make it redemptive as well and show that, you know, this is the Christian response to it too. So we try to do, you know, go come at it with that angle. But yeah, it's really, really fishy and sketchy.
Well, it's just funny because Mimi Hijab was going after Alex Jones's family, saying, "What have you achieved? What have the Alexes achieved?
Yeah, what have the Jones achieved?
So what have the Hijabs achieved?"
They've achieved powerful stuff. So what we can conclude from all of this is that Muhammad Hijab would be a completely trustworthy Quran transmitter back in the day, him and his dad.
Absolutely.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
guess what else?
if he had run these scams in the first 2 centuries of Islam, and the Muslim sources would be saying, yes, Muhammad Hijab and his dad are great scammers and totally dishonest, but really, really great. That's why you have to completely trust them when they're transmitting the Quran. We only trust complete liars.
There would have been a Quran of hijab.
Yeah.
Like instead of Hafs Quran, it'd be a hijab Quran.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's Muhammad Hijab. And of course, like, you know, we were going over some of his credentials, and he has on his website like
6 degrees.
6 degrees. Like he's got like 3 master's degrees, doing a PhD, and we're you know,
And
people.
guess how old he is? 32 years old.
Yeah,
and
and
they
so-
already got 6 degrees.
So we're really
Nice.
like, all right, either this guy's gonna take it as a compliment. He's gonna like he's an overachiever. He's got all these degrees, or there's something going on there.
Got him from his dad.
Yeah, and one of the things that we thought was interesting was that one of the things that he listed on his CV was that he learned Arabic from his mom and masculinity
From his mother.
from his mother.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, if you go to his website. We're not making it up. Go to his website. It's the number one thing on his CV after his credentials from like school is spoken Arabic and masculinity from
Hijab.
from his mama, from his mom.
He learned masculinity from his mom?
Yes.
Yes, she had a great beard like mine, you see. Like, what? Yes. I'm trying to grow my beard out like my mom. What is...
I have to show you. This is hilarious.
Yeah, you have to. We're going to get your feedback on this. This is
My mom was just like Andrew Tate.
Right here.
so. This
Yeah,
is. I'm going to put on the screen here. You could you
One
can
second.
watch this now. Okay, so I want to about Muhammad Hijab. All right.
They're
So,
right here.
Once we okay, check it out. So those are his, PhD working on that at University of
There's a
Birmingham,
6
et cetera, et
degrees.
cetera. Number one thing here: spoken Arabic and language and masculinity,
From Muhammad Hijab.
meaning the mother of Muhammad Hijab.
What do you
So-
think?
What do you think, David?
Powerful. Powerful.
You can't make this up.
Yep, that's very weird.
Muhammad Hijab was an expert in masculinity.
She's part of the chain. She's part of the Isnad.
She's the top H, the top hijab.
The top.
Top hijab. Powerful.
Yep. So there you
Powerful
go.
stuff. Powerful stuff. What is this religion, man? What is this religion?
Um,
1 second. Let's take these couple super chats here.
Oh,
I once got kicked off Hamza's den for bringing up the fact Muhammad made people clean his privates. Afterward, he went to the restroom, took 10 seconds. Well, what's wrong with that? I mean, he had a prepubescent child bride cleaning off his semen stains.
yeah.
Adnan, the guy that lost his wife to Uthman.
Abu Adnan. Yeah.
Oh, so that's the guy. That's the guy. He sent his wife to Sheikh Uthman for marital counseling, and then Sheikh Uthman started banging the dude's wife. Said in a debate, due to your culture, you can call God whatever you like. Christians ate him up with father comments. That's nice. David, how sure are you now of Aisha's age in the hadiths compared to a year ago? Is it still at 50%, or has it now changed? No, I have this. I just have these parallel processings going on. Namely, it's just if you take the hadith as at least somewhat reliable, then you have a really, really, really strong case that Muhammad had sex with a little girl. Or if those literally hundreds of hadiths are all wrong, then throw out the hadiths. They're a bunch of garbage. So it's take your pick. That's kind of the issue. I'm kind of 50-50 on that. Do I take these hadiths as at least as somewhat reliable, or do I treat them as complete garbage? If I treat them as complete garbage, yeah, you don't know how old Aisha was. She could have been 9. She could have been 50. We wouldn't know because we can't trust the hadith. So it's a difficult situation. So anyway, the situation, like if you go years ago, was I trusted the hadiths unless I had a good reason not to trust them. In other words, if it says that Muhammad performed miracles, but that contradicts the Quran saying Muhammad couldn't perform miracles, I say, okay, it's obvious that you're making this stuff up. Stuff about, Muhammad and Aisha or various things, if I didn't have a reason not to trust it, I would generally take it seriously. Whereas now I'm not sure. So it's just a hard issue. I'm flipping it back on Muslims. You guys pick. If you want to think that your hadiths are reliable, then great, you're stuck with Muhammad and Aisha. If you want to throw out Muhammad and Aisha, throw out your hadiths and throw them all out. They're a bunch of fabricated nonsense. There's a huge cost of saying the hadiths are generally unreliable. It's like I don't even know how you really trust the Quran at that point, because how do you even know what the background was, how the Quran was assembled? How do you know anything about Muhammad if you have to throw out the hadith? So, you guys have any thoughts on that stuff?
Yeah, or you'd have the same people that are narrating the hadith, narrating the Qurans as well. Like you have these same exact people. Except, some of them aren't even, acceptable for hadith. So that's a whole nother funny thing. But
that is, and it's kind of connected to what we were talking about earlier in that the more deceivers you have writing fake isnads for the hadiths, the less seriously you can take these isnads for the Quran. It's like, okay, if lying and deceit and deception were just standard in the ummah, anytime you want to defend something, you just, hey, I'll write the hadith and I'll write the chain. Yeah, guess what? These are the same guys who are preserving the Quran. Bunch of liars.
So how does that factor into, because you've had debates about whether Muhammad existed or not, and one of your arguments, not all your arguments relied on this, but at least one of them was about these embarrassing facts found in the hadith. So how does that, where are you at with that now? Is it same kind of?
That is one way you, principle of embarrassment would be one way you sift through. So assuming you say, hey, I can't just trust something because of an isnad, because you can fake an isnad and so on. But we have all of these Muslim sources saying all these different things. If we understand that there were a bunch of people who were lying and making things up and so on, how do we get to things that we think are actually true? Well, you use the principle of embarrassment. What are things that someone wouldn't make up? Like what you wouldn't have a reason to make something up like that. In other words, it actually hurts your case. In other words, when they come up with an explanation for the satanic verses or something like that, that presupposes that the satanic verses was a problem, that it was bothering some people. So it seemed to me, that seems like it's historical there.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm just curious. Okay, cool. Anything?
And we have, without lies, Islam dies. No, Islam is true. That just depends on lies. Muttaman says, Sunan Ibn Majah, 522, Hussein bin Ali urinated on Muhammad and he didn't change. Yeah, he just said you sprinkle water on it. Just sprinkle water if someone pees on you.
Oh, is that where Muhammad Hijab gets that from? No.
Urinating upon one another. Jesus is your hope of salvation, Shireen Morris. Yeah, Shireen is a Muslim in the chat. What do we have here? Snudgewick. Jesus is alive. Muhammad is dead, Shireen Morris. That's true. What's funny is that's true according to Islam.
Exactly.
Let's see. I've actually prayed for Farid as a Christian. He just seems like someone who's trying to hold on to his faith. Farid, if you ever read this, I hope the best for you and hope you come to Christ. Oh, he'll read that. He'll read that as he's watching this live stream and figuring out what little part he wants to respond to while ignoring the multiple arguments.
90%.
Yeah. Apostate of Allah says, all I do is read their sources too. Sometimes, Ahmed, lol, they get so mad. Muslims are so Islamophobic. Yeah, why? Hey, guys, we should start using that when we quote their sources and they flip out and say, why are you guys so Islamophobic? Do not dehydrated boys' tongues need hydrating? Yes. A Muslim friend of mine told me to not watch you guys because you aren't true Christians and to watch James White and Paul Williams instead. Of Paul Williams, the Muslim.
Wait, Paul Williams isn't he like a gay
He's a
Muslim
gay
or
Muslim,
something?
yeah.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, so James doesn't go after Islam much. So yeah, people would prefer going to Christians who don't blast away at Muhammad. Do you think that occasionally hamhead, hijab, lays in bed, feet sticking out at the end, and the cold, harsh reality dawns on him that his faith is based on pure waf? What do you guys think?
Yes.
I think he knows. I've seen videos of him where he's talked about going through these doubts, and that's what makes him such like this strong Dawah man, because he's gone through these doubts and he's figured out these things, and
He hasn't figured out nothing.
I think he still struggles. And I mean, I think a large motivation for him and Ali Dawah is the fact that they make a lot of money off of Dawah. I think that's a large.
They do. It's your entire income. Like, what do you do after that?
Yeah, I really think that. I really believe that.
If you watch him with the Yasser Qadi in their infamous interview about the Qira'at, remember when he said to him, I think it should be a clear yes or no, Yasser Qadi. Do you remember that? When he said about the blank mushaf? That is a look of someone who's doubting and saying, look, we need a straight answer.
Yes.
Very telling.
Yeah.
And again, think about Ali Dawah. Here's all the reasons I became a Muslim, yeah, and they all turned out to be false, yeah. And I got no problem with that. You have no problem with all the reasons you converted to Islam being completely false. In other words, guys lied to you and you bought it. So you bought into a religion because of a bunch of lies, and then you don't have a problem with it?
Yeah, he basically turned into a drama channel, and everyone started pointing that out. Like Muslims started pointing that out. And so he tried to start doing some more dawah, but those, like, I'm not even joking you, they get like 10% of the views. So people, like, they only watch him for the drama. He tries to go back to the dawah because, it's been pointed out to him so often.
Once you go drama,
you can't transition
drama.
back. Yeah.
And I noticed that before I saw other people pointing out, because I'd occasionally, hey, let me see if there's something I should respond to over on Ali Dawah's channel, like flip over there, and it's, what did this person say about that person behind the scenes? Yeah, and I was like, what? What is this? What is this? It's a gossip. It's become a gossip channel. And then Jake, the Muslim metaphysician, he started trying to do the same thing, like, what's going on behind the scenes with apostate prophet and his Christian wife? Is this going on? Is AP mad? What's going on? Oh, how do we explain this when she tweets it? It's like, dude, this is what Dawah is becoming.
Yeah. Oh, speaking about Jake, by the way, I'm looking forward to the video that he's going to do. He said he's going to do a video on why Muslims should get out of the West or out of the countries of the Kuffar, because he's officially moved to Morocco now,
which isn't exactly known for being a bastion of medical excellence. Given his recent difficulty.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
so
not very
that
wise.
wasn't a wise move. But
yeah, why wouldn't you pick like Dubai or something like that? Why, like,
his wife's Moroccan. Yeah, his wife's Moroccan.
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, I'm thinking there's got to be places that are better for medical stuff.
Yeah, so he said that, he's gonna make a video, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's about Muslims, why you shouldn't live in the West, basically, and you should live in Muslim countries. And he said, like, there's a small exception, like if you're doing dawah. But he said, actually, most dawah is just done online these days, so there's no real reason. And I'm looking forward for the video because I can't wait to review it. But
yeah, hey, we'll share that for you, Jake. We're gonna share that one for you. Get out while you can. Good idea. Good idea. Good idea. Hope you're. Unfortunately, no one listens to you. But being Christian, violent past, cross-dressing does nothing to discredit David's argument. That's true. The argument stands. An argument stands or falls on whether there are good reasons for the premises and whether the logic is valid. So nothing else matters there, Farid. With that said, I actually I've been doing this for years. I like giving you guys a way to sidestep an argument without responding to it. I think it's fun, and I will do it more. In fact, one of the things I'm going to be doing here in the next couple months, Farid, I'm going to be remaking the famous dressing up in my wife's nightie video to share my new claims, my new position for all of you, that since the Dawah guys will not hesitate to lie about the Christian sources. We cannot lie in response because we don't have the same prophet. Since we can't lie in response, we can not give you the benefit of the doubt on all these things. So I'm going to remake that. You're all going to watch it. You're going to take screenshots of me and not realizing what you're doing. You're popularizing it. And it's going to be glorious and hilarious to watch. And I'm saying it now so that later on I can tell you I told you so and have the proof. David has been saved by his sins. Oh, is everyone talking about Farid talking trash about me? Not guys. I think it's hilarious when these guys talk trash about me. David has been. Why do you think I do all the ridiculous stuff? If I had a problem with people making fun of me, would I be doing all the ridiculous stuff if I was bothered by? David has been. Yeah. I will insult him. Oh no, they're insulting me. David has been saved for his sins by the grace of the Lord and the Savior Jesus Christ. Say what you will. Love your work, Mr. David Wood. Thank you. And let's see. Praying for thousands more to come to Jesus as their Savior and Lord. Indeed. Mm-hmm. David, what kind of doctor are you? Dr. Wood and Muhammad, did you study at London, Cambridge College? Yep. It's a doctorate. It's a philosophy.
So it's a real doctorate.
Yeah, it's a real philosophy.
Not one from Muhammad Hijab's university.
Hey, see, before everyone exposed it, we should have all gotten degrees from there. That would have been funny. Wouldn't that have been funnier if we all got degrees from there?
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
Let's see. What's next? Is he going to fake a hate crime? That sounds like something. But he'll never be able to pass. Wouldn't that be funny? Because like Uthman does the fake hate crimes and stuff against himself. Wouldn't it be funny if, like, in order to get attention, these guys all had to start competing in fake hate crimes? Who's got the most amazing fake hate crime against himself?
Yeah, I could see them competing in that.
The Ahruf are the friends we made along the way. Yes, they are. Smiling. Oh, there's a super sticker. Farid, the boat is sinking. Get a better dinghy. You don't want that shoddy dinghy. Allah is the author of all scribal errors, though. That's what you want to say. That's what you want to say.
Nice.
Uthman canonized one dialect, Quraysh. That's actually in there. After 200 years, qira'ats are in different dialects. Muslims reintroduced dialects. Uthman got rid of Islam. Yeah, it's something like that. Point is, ladies and gentlemen, it's very confusing on how this actually all ties together, and that's what Sheikh Yasser Qadhi was admitting. Updated Dawah script. The number 7 is symbolic, and Allah has revealed an unbounded number of Qurans. Recite whichever is easiest for you to accept.
Well, that actually is one of the 40 plus interpretations is that the number is actually symbolic. 7 is not actually, it's not limited to 7. It's just many. What does it mean though? Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm. It's understandable Muhammad didn't write the Quran down because, as we all know, he can't read. But why didn't other Muslims do it while he was around? Well, they did write down, as far as, I don't know if you guys have a different view, as far as writing this stuff down, when they're writing this stuff down, and we have this in the Muslim source, they write on flat stones, on palm leaves, on bones, flat bones, and so on. When they would do this, you're obviously not making a book. You're obviously not writing a bunch of stuff on bones and rocks for to compile that into a book. Seems like these were just aids to memory. So they would write something down so that you could go back to your tent and memorize it. But it seems like the goal was to preserve this through memorization. And they just had to find out over time after Muhammad died that this was a really, really stupid way to preserve a book.
Very stupid, because remember the stoning verse?
Mm-hmm.
The stoning verse was lost. So there's the abrogation again. Muslims decided that it was abrogated in recitation, but not in ruling.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, they're abrogating things left and right to fix stuff.
Yeah. And I like some of the stories that they attribute to Muhammad's scribes. Like, we have at least 2 accounts of them apostatizing because they would write things down, be like, I'm going to test this guy. So Muhammad said this, and I'm going to say that instead. They say that, and then Muhammad's like, oh, yeah, that's how it was revealed. And like, oh, so this guy is not a prophet, because if he was getting revelation, and I'm the one who originated those words, that means I'm the prophet, so therefore I shouldn't follow this guy, I believe he's a prophet. And they left Islam. At least 2 of them left Islam in the Islamic sources.
And that actually ties into what we were talking about, because that's Abdullah ibn Abi Sar, who Muhammad then conquered Mecca, and Abdullah ibn Abi Sar converted back to Islam because it was the only way not to die. But so he was one of Muhammad's scribes. He left Islam because Muhammad was letting him edit things. So Muhammad would say, I've received a revelation. Here it is. Write this down. And wouldn't it be better like this? Muhammad, oh yeah, that's how Allah wants it right there. But it's a similar idea, right? That the Quran can be improved upon. That makes sense of abrogation, why things are changing. It also makes sense of Muhammad reciting the Quran differently over time. It could just be improved over time. So Farid, you got it, man. You got an uphill battle there, sport.
Yep.
So a couple more here. Yo, guys, I love Jai and DoC.
God bless you. Thank you.
Yeah, link to their channel. If you're not following Jai and DoC, link to their channels in the description box. And they've been covering lots of stuff, doing lots of streams over there on issues like Muhammad Hijab's awesome scam, things like that. And what is this? David, please reiterate to us who killed Muhammad. There's a whole video on that. Just search for who killed Muhammad. Plenty of stuff there. Go through all the sources. Islam is the polar opposite of Christianity. Sins galore. Yeah, Allah wants you to sin in Islam. And finally, Farid, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. I actually got a good picture here of Farid right there on the screen. That'd be good for a thumbnail of him looking up at something. All right, hey guys, I know it's late there. How much you guys still good, or?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll watch a little more of this. See if Farid gets to some dope points.
Yeah. I mean, sure, people with memory issues often confuse which dialects they are comfortable with speaking. Okay.
So, the obvious issues that come up is, okay, why weren't his companions familiar with this? Why didn't they know about this? Whoa. This is the problem for Farid. Everything you say, every sentence you say is so stupid that we have to respond to everything. But then it takes us 3 hours to get through an 11 or 12-minute video. Look at what he just did. Oh my goodness. So Muhammad says, hey, these guys are reciting the Quran differently because Allah revealed it in these different ways. We point out that can't be a difference of dialect there. That can't be a difference of dialect because those guys spoke the exact same dialect. Why would they be speaking the same dialect? And I said, why don't you just say Muhammad had a bad memory? And he goes, oh yeah, because bad memory would make people speak a different dialect. We're not saying it's the same. We're not saying it's a different dialect. That's you saying that.
Exactly.
This is, guys, those of you who are watching, sometimes it's hard to miss this, and this is why Farid's followers would never in a million years pick up on something like this, even though it's very, very simple, right? So what do you have? You have the Hadith. We already read it. Two guys reciting the Quran differently, and they come to Muhammad, and Muhammad says, "Yeah, I recited it. Yeah, I revealed. It was revealed in both those different ways. It was revealed in both those different ways." And the Muslim claim is that these are different dialects. We point out, hey, it doesn't make sense that they're different dialects. Those guys were from the same tribe. They spoke the exact same dialect. Why would they be speaking different? Why would the Quran be revealed to them in different dialects, right? So that makes no sense. And we point, and then we claim, hey, wouldn't it make more sense since Muhammad's memory was clearly flawed, according to your own sources, that Muhammad just said it differently years later? So he revealed it one way to Umar, and then years later he's reciting it, and he says something different. Isn't that entirely plausible? And Farid goes, well, why would they be reciting different dialects? Because of memory. We're not saying it's different dialects. Oh my goodness, this is weird.
Exactly.
It's not different dialects. And he was saying that after the point of Malik and Malik, which are two different words.
Exactly.
Not dialects.
Not dialects.
Not dialects, Farida.
Why is this new information to them? You seriously saying that Muhammad's been revealing the Quran in all these different ways for all these years, and no, so 2 decades by that point, Muhammad's been revealing the Quran. No one ever knew that he's revealing the Quran in all these different ways.
So I've actually responded to this in a previous video, which shows that David doesn't watch my videos unless
True.
Apus is holding his hand, or he's intentionally trying to deceive his audience by ignoring my responses when he has been.
Yeah, Farid, you got that correct. I do not watch the vast majority of his stuff. It has nothing to do with AP holding my hand or something like that. It's, if I'm going to watch something from you, it's going to have to be relevant to something that we're talking about in our efforts to move the discussion forward. Because as there's this fallout from Muslims realizing that they've been lied to about the perfect preservation of the Quran, then you guys try to pick up the pieces. We want to keep everyone updated on you guys' failed efforts to pick up the pieces. We want people to follow the discussion so that they can respond to it. But yes, it's true. I do not watch the VAT. You could have posted 20 videos on this stuff. I would not know. I don't understand what that has to do now. You can go ahead and explain. You go ahead and explain your point here. So he's saying he's talked about it before, but he's going to break it down right here.
Debunked. David, it's a friggin' 12-minute video. You should familiarize yourself.
How come every time I respond to one of his videos, he tells me about the other 12 videos I have to watch?
Yeah.
With my arguments instead of pretending to respond to them.
I'm literally playing an entire video of you. Oh, okay. Okay, so he's going back to his previous video. Here, this is a previous video that I have not seen. 20 years, Muslims, for 20 years, Muhammad's revealing the Quran. Wait, that's me.
Didn't you just say that?
Oh, okay. No, he's responding. So there's a previous video where he responded to me. So that's my voice and he's responding to me. Okay, that's good. Memorizing passages of the Quran. They're memorizing their prayers. But he revealed it in all these different ways and not one person ever noticed until now. And then he tells them, oh yeah, for all these 2 decades where I've been revealing the Quran to you, yeah, I've been telling it to you in 7 different ways.
And this is another baseless assumption. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, is in Mecca for the majority of his prophethood.
Nice try.
In Mecca, he only has Meccans around him. Why would he be reciting in different dialects in the first place? As David
But didn't Allah know that they were going to be moving later, and so he prepared the way by revealing it in all the dialects so that they would be there for the future when they meet all these different people in different dialects? Wait a minute, guys. There's a huge problem with what he's saying. So, guys, yeah.
Hisham
So
and Omar were from Mecca.
Yeah.
yeah.
Both Quraishi.
Yeah. So, guys, here's the issue, because again, we know this is a new topic for lots of people. So Muhammad supposedly starts receiving revelations in the year 610. So at that point, he's in Mecca. So for the next 12 years, he's in Mecca. He's preaching in Mecca. Then the Muslim community moves to Medina. So 622. And then it's based in Medina for the next 10 years. And so Hisham, the guy who was reciting the Quran differently, he's reciting Surah 25 differently, he converted after the conquest of Mecca. That's almost at the very end. Right? So Umar's all confused. Why is this guy reciting the Quran differently? This makes no sense. What's going on here? I'm about to beat this guy up. And Muhammad says, no, I revealed it in both those ways. Okay. So 2 huge main problems there. Problem one, if it's a matter of dialect, why is a guy from Umar's exact same tribe reciting the Quran in a different dialect? Why? In other words, if Muhammad's reciting the Quran, he's delivering the Quran to this guy, why would he be delivering it to Hisham in a different dialect from the one he speaks? Why? It makes no sense. It makes 0 sense. The other thing is, because Farid didn't just help himself. So Farid's explanation is when they're in Mecca, so for those first 12 years, they all speak the same dialect there. So they all speak the same dialect. If they all speak the same dialect, you didn't need the different dialects. Okay, fair point. I don't believe that's the explanation, but okay, this is Farid's new explanation. Okay, then they move to Medina. You're still talking about what? 7-8 years in Medina before this becomes an issue? So in other words, they're the exact same reasoning applies. So once they move to Medina, then they're encountering all these different dialects, and therefore the Quran needs to be revealed in all these different ways. But Farid, no one knows about it until after the conquest of Mecca. That's when, oh, shocker, Muhammad has been revealing the Quran in all these different ways. Never crossed anyone's mind. No one noticed this for years. So for years, not according to you, Farid, Muhammad, for years, is revealing the Quran in so many different ways that it accounts for all the different qira'at that we have today, right? Tons and tons of differences, thousands and thousands and thousands of differences. Muhammad is revealing it in all these different ways, and no one finds out about this until after the conquest of Mecca? It's been going on for years, according to you, Farid. He's revealing it in tons of different ways. And no one catches on until they finally wait a minute, this guy, Umar's ready to fight the guy. You're reciting the Quran differently. That means he had no clue that the Quran's being revealed in all these different ways. That means, according to you, Farid, for years, Muhammad is revealing the Quran in multiple different ways to different companions. And these guys, well, I mean, they're going to the mosque together and reciting. They're trading out who's reciting the Quran. No one ever notices that they're reciting the Quran in all these different ways. No one notices. Does that sound like, hey, so Farid, here are your possibilities. Muhammad spent years reciting the Quran in all these different ways. No one notices until Umar sees the problem, and then it gets brought up to Muhammad, and then Muhammad, oh yeah, I've been doing that all along. No one noticed. What makes more sense, Farid? That Muhammad's reciting the Quran in a ton of different ways, no one ever notices, or Muhammad messed up. He got called out for it, and he made something up. Seriously, think about an outsider perspective. How does this look? How does this look to an outsider who doesn't mindlessly accept any idiotic response that Muhammad comes up with?
Yeah, or you could posit that the Muslims, due to whatever reason, maybe the ambiguity of the Arabic or like the script or whatever it was, came up with all these different readings, and then they wanted to justify that, make sense of it, and then they kind of just made up this hadith and said, oh, there's 7 ahruf.
That's the other explanation.
Then later on, they were like, wait, we have to define what this means. And they're like, well, we can't agree on it. There's 40 different opinions. And now they just got themselves in a hole they can't get out of.
And they are stuck now. And that's the problem, guys. There's no way out of this. You cannot come up with a coherent explanation of how this works. There are so many if you had one seriously implausible part of your explanation, that would be one thing. Maybe we'll let you slide. If you have this completely implausible thing here and then followed up by another completely implausible thing and then a third more completely implausible thing and then another completely implausible thing, and you put all this together and say, see, it adds up to a great explanation. No. 487 terrible, awful arguments and explanations do not add up to a great one. Doesn't work like that, Farid. It becomes more improbable. The more improbable scenarios you cobble together, the less probable the entire thing is. Right? Farid, if you don't understand this about probability, if I say you had a 1 in 6 chance of this thing happening and a 1 in 6 chance of that thing happening, you multiply those together, you get 1 in 36. It becomes less probable getting both of those improbable things. Now, if you keep doing that, you had a 1 in 6 chance of this, a 1 in 6 chance of that, 1 in 6 chance of this, and then 1 in 6 chance. You eventually get to something that's so massively improbable it seems insane to believe, which is what you're stuck with right now. Shouldn't have leaked the emails.
He pointed out it was during the time of Hisham bin Hakim bin Hizam's acceptance of Islam that Umar first realized that there are different ahruf, that there are multiple modes. Well, the natural assumption is that these multiple modes were revealed very late into the prophethood.
Very late.
That makes sense because that's when you had multiple tribes from different regions converting to Islam.
And therefore, you're not right. So, guys, now, since Umar was not aware of it, guys, I don't think anyone realizes how insane this actually is. So Farid's response, since Umar and the other companions had no clue, Farid just acknowledged that. Since Umar and the other companions had no clue about Muhammad revealing it in all these different ways, Farid's conclusion is, well, then this must have happened very late. So in other words, very, very, very close to the end. You're talking like 629, 630. Muhammad dies in 632. So somewhere 629, 630, Muhammad foists all of these different dialects onto the Muslim community. Still, no one catches on to it. No one realizes. Really, Farid? I mean, Muhammad's going around telling his companions to memorize these thousands and thousands of variants. You recite it like this. Okay, you recite it in this different way. What dialect do you recite? Okay, you recite this completely different thing. And we're going to have different words and different meanings and all these things. And some of them are going to be completely contradictory. And no one catches on, Farid? No one sees Muhammad doing this? Like, what's he doing? Is he sneaking into people's houses going, hey, you recite it like this, but don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone at all. Never say this until it's exposed. And then I'll say, ha ha, I've been revealing it in all these different ways too. Farid, this sounds ridiculous. You think you're making sense. I don't even know what to do at this point. Orthodox, if you say these are scribal mistakes.
It's really funny because even if you grant that these, do go back to the beginnings of Islam, it doesn't really answer the question of whether they're mistakes or not. Because you had people like, for example, At-Tabari, for example, he definitely believed that there were different readings that were divine, but he also believed that there were mistakes amongst readings as well. So you can accept both. You can say both. You can say, yeah, these.
I just remembered that comment up on the screen. Fariko is having a very bad weeko. That's funny. That's funny. Guys, do we need to? What do you guys? Is there anything else we wanted to get to in this video?
Did you want to say anything else, or
just that bit about he said about that it's the later revelations. The 7 ahruf only apply to later revelations. There's a problem with that because in the Arabic, Muhammad says the Quran was revealed. He didn't say parts. أنزل القرآن على 7 أحرف. The Quran was revealed upon 7 ahruf. He didn't say parts and other parts. If he wants to claim that parts of the Quran were 7 and other parts were not because everybody was in Quraysh, he needs to provide evidence.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that as well. There's a hadith that, one of the many hadith about the 7 ahruf. One of them is, where did I put it? Somewhere. Oh, here we go. Okay. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. All right. So one of the many hadith on this topic is this one here. The Messenger of Allah, Gabriel. Gabriel said, "Oh, Gabriel, I have been sent to an illiterate nation, among whom are the elderly woman, the old man, the boy, the girl, the man who cannot read a book at all." He said, "O Muhammad, indeed the Quran was revealed in 7 modes, 7 ahruf." So the 7 ahruf are meant to accommodate the illiterate, the elderly, the young. There's no mention here about dialects or tribes. So what I'm saying is, like, okay, in Mecca, in these early years or whatever, don't you have elderly? Don't you have the young? Don't you have the illiterate? So it's supposed to accommodate these people. Right?
But then if he wants it to be dialectical,
this would have been the perfect place to mention it.
Yeah, he's saying that part of the Quran in Mecca didn't need to be different dialects because people were all in Mecca. But then there are different dialects in the future. So people in the future would have had to read that portion in Mecca that was on one dialect in the 7 others. So how does that work? Because those 7 would have been revealed for that part.
Yeah, and I want to. I just want to just real quick along those lines, like the absurdity here. So, in order to make the Quran easier for people who speak a different dialect of Arabic, we'll reveal it in all these different dialects. And even though we're not saying that, we're just saying that it's actually revealed so that it's easier for illiterate people and elderly and old men and boys and girls and so on. Therefore, Allah has to reveal it in all these different ways. Meanwhile, Islam spreads to people who don't even understand Arabic. And then everyone's supposed to be a master of classical Arabic to understand it. So it's like problem after problem after problem after problem. And just going back to the point from a second ago, if the Quran is revealed to make it easier for all these people, and then what? Uthman's going to burn them all to cover up the differences. So Allah gives the different versions to make it easier for people, but then Uthman says, okay, well, yeah, that made it easier for people, but now it's causing division. We're all going to fight over it. So let's destroy all the stuff that made it easier for people, whether that's dialects or differences for old men and boys and girls. There's no way to make sense of this at all. It's just, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and think about this. So Farid thinks Malik and Melik are the part of the ahruf. Well, how does saying owner or king accommodate
for a little girl, a young boy, an old woman?
How does that make sense of this hadith? Like,
it doesn't.
So yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't think there's much else he has to say, but yeah. What do you think, David?
I really keep talking, Farid. Keep talking. Keep answering our objections, and then you respond and give us some. Well, but it says ahruf. There are differences. Therefore, this all somehow holds together by magic. Keep it up, Farid. Keep it up.
So
I have to.
can I ask about the dialects and the young girls and the old women and that? Ibn Mas'ud's Mus'haf has 2 surahs missing.
Oh yeah.
So how does the dialect does the dialect not make you count properly? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Missing surahs, added surahs.
It makes
Apparently,
things really easier because you can miss surahs and it's fine.
yeah.
Good job. You're doing a bang-up job, Farid. We love your work. It's powerful. Keep talking. You will have, most of your followers will keep just sort of mindlessly agreeing with you. That's what they're trained to do. Over time, more and more people are going to realize how silly this is. And the real takeaway for everyone out there, this is the real takeaway. If you go, I keep saying how things are so much better now than they were years ago. One of the main differences is if you go back 15 years, almost all of Islamic dawah was polemics against Christianity. They were always on the attack. They're attacking. Now they're stuck defending, and they're not used to it. And this is why. They get into very uncomfortable situations having to defend completely ridiculous things. Oh, guys, there was that challenge, so I think they could be pretty quickly because I think he's just playing mostly. I think he's posting mostly me. It's mostly me from my stuff. So let's just check out this. So guys, this is, if you weren't here earlier, Farid, as he's responding, is like, why is David ignoring this challenge from me? Because I didn't know it existed, Farid.
He's running from me.
Yeah, Farid, you're one among a lot of different dawah guys. I'm not up to date on everything everyone is doing, but he pointed out this challenge. So let's go ahead and check out this. And it was titled something like "The Final Challenge to David Wood." So it's good to know this is the last time Farid's ever going to challenge me.
You guys know why David Wood is a Christian?
Is he like?
Is he stoned?
Yeah, I think he's like.
Whenever he's in the car, he's on something.
Yeah,
he's on whatever Muhammad Hijab was on.
David, because I was on hashish in this video.
Yeah, I was in the car, man.
He's on whatever Muhammad Hijab was on when he was cracking up about Alex Jones in that Sneeko
video.
Yeah, they're on the same stuff here, but. No, look at it, Farid. I have to say, look at it, Farid right here with this. We know why David is a Christian. This is why I think, like I've pointed out before, it wouldn't matter what Muhammad Hijab or Ali Dawah believe. They could change religions 1,000 times. They could become Christian. I would not get along with those guys, personality-wise. Farid seems like he'd be fun, right? Like you could actually get along with Farid if he didn't hate you because of religious beliefs.
You guys ever wondered why? Because he used to be an atheist. You know why he's a Christian? It's because of this. Roll the clip, ya Ahmed.
Ya Habibi.
Don't he look funny? I gotta back it up. He actually looks funny.
It's because of this. Roll the clip, ya Ahmed.
He looks so stoned right now.
His friend called him Habibi, which is these guys are from the Gulf. These guys are from
people from the Gulf don't say Habibi to men unless they're real Habibis.
Yeah, it's more like in other parts of the Arabic-speaking world.
Yeah,
but,
Shamis are okay.
Yeah, but him. Anyway, something fishy there.
Okay, so he says this is what now. There's a problem. He shows one little clip of one thing that was part of my testimony video. It's a good little plug. Matter of fact, I should stick it in the description box. But my testimony video goes through a lot of things and a lot of things that started bothering me about my atheism and which led me to Christianity. But he brings up one sub point and says, "This is why I'm a Christian."
You don't have the clip?
Wait, you're gonna play that again?
I got to. I have to. Here we go.
Christian? You guys ever wondered why? Because he used to be an atheist. You know why he's a Christian? It's because of this. Roll the clip, ya Ahmed.
Habibi.
What clip? You don't have the clip? Roll the clip!
I found out how Jesus' apostles
And he
died.
wanted you to watch this?
Most of them went to their bloody deaths claiming that they had seen him risen from the dead. My explanation for the origin of Christianity had always been that the apostles made up a story so that they could spread his message. But now my explanation wasn't making sense. If you're willing to die for something, you have to believe it.
Good point.
When a terrorist blows himself up, he's obviously sincere. So the disciples, the apostles, had to believe what they were dying for, but this means that they were convinced that they had seen Jesus risen from the dead.
True.
Now, usually when someone is willing to lay down their life for something, it's for an ideology that they got from someone else, and that ideology could be true or false. The disciples were dying for something that they saw. What could have convinced so many different people that they had all seen a resurrected man? I could explain one witness by saying he's crazy, but all of them? Something was going on here, and I had to figure it out. But I couldn't come up with any explanation for why they had that level of confidence other than they actually saw him.
David Wood's put out over 1,000 videos in the past few years.
This is the part I'm confused about. So guys, you know, when he said, there's this challenge for David Wood that he's not responding to, and I click on it, and it's like he plays a clip of me pointing out that how the apostles died. And I was saying that was something I learned that was a refutation of my explanation for how Christianity rose. So as an atheist, I thought I had Christianity, the origin of Christianity explained. How? Because you have some guys and they're following Jesus. They think he's the Messiah. Their Messiah dies, gets crucified. So what do? They make up a story about him rising from the dead. That was my theory when I was still an atheist. Then I found out how the apostles died, and that started bothering me. Wait a minute. If they made it up, I tried to think of anyone else in history who made something up and then was willing to die for it. And I couldn't think of anyone, but you could have someone. You could have someone who makes something up and then is willing to die for it. But what are the odds that you get a bunch of them? You get a bunch of them. They're all willing to endure torture and death for something they made up. That didn't seem very plausible. In other words, you could believe it. You could believe it, but it's like the various things that Farid says in his video. It would be I'm talking about how a bunch of improbabilities don't add up to a probability. The more improbabilities you combine together, the less probable the whole thing is. So if it's like really improbable that this guy would make something up and die for it, and that this guy would make something up and die for it, and then you get the entire bunch and they're all willing to die for something they all made up, that seems like insanely, ridiculously improbable. And therefore, it made me I had to reject that explanation. I had to reject the liar hypothesis. There are other explanations like hallucinations and so on that don't involve the apostles lying, but I had to reject the explanation that they were lying. So that's the point of this. But Farid's going to challenge me somehow on this. Let's see.
David Wood's put out over 1,000 videos in the past few years. Not a single video about the subject. Not a single video about the disciples being put to death for preaching the resurrection. Why aren't you doing this, David?
What is he actually talking about? I talked about that in my video on the resurrection. I posted a video on Easter, Farid, that talked about the deaths of the apostles and how they endured persecution and so on. It's in my resurrection video. I brought this up in multiple debates. Anytime I'm talking about the resurrection, I bring this up. So does he mean I haven't made like a separate specific video on the deaths of this? I can't even figure out what he's talking about or why this is. I don't understand what he's after here.
Yeah, I have no idea because I've heard you talk about it multiple times. So I really don't know. I mean,
it's not secret information. You can do
a
simple Google search and you find out
what
happened to each one of the apostles.
And this is something that non-Christian academics grant. And it's how, if you ask people like Bart Ehrman, he'll acknowledge at least Peter, Paul, and Mary, right? He says those three must have seen something. Those three must have seen something that they believed was Jesus appearing to them. Others will acknowledge even more. Some people have a problem with the group appearances, and it's mainly because if you want to explain things in terms of a possible hallucination or something, kind of hard to say there were entire groups who were all hallucinating this same thing. But think about this. Why do even non-Christian scholars, even atheist and agnostic scholars, grant that the disciples sincerely believed that Jesus was appearing to them? Part of it is because we know what they were preaching. One, we know what they were preaching. And two, we know they were willing to die for it. And it's interesting because I thought I was like the first one to come up with that reasoning when I was in jail. Turns out other people have come to the exact same conclusions, and even people who don't believe in the resurrection acknowledge that Jesus' followers thought he appeared to them. And why? Because they're clearly not making this up. Otherwise, you just say maybe they were lying. Why don't you believe they were just lying? Well, because they were willing to endure torture and death for it. So it doesn't seem like something they knew they were making up. So you have to explain it some other way. So I don't know what, like, does he want just a separate video on that point? I don't know what you're saying, Farid.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard you talk about it since Nabil days. You talked about it for a long time.
I talk about that every time I share my testimony, when I'm talking about the resurrection, because that's how you, when you say, here's the evidence, and you say, okay, how do I account for this evidence? Sometimes you have a hypothesis that explains the evidence, and then you find out, oops, I was missing this evidence, and therefore my explanation doesn't work because it doesn't fit that evidence. So if you're just saying, hey, a bunch of guys are preaching that Jesus rose from the dead, you can make up anything. You say, okay, well, maybe they were lying or something like that. Then you find out some other information, and you say, oh, my explanation no longer fits. I need another explanation. That's kind of the point of the video, Farid. It's the actual facts of the case kept refuting my theories, and all I was left with at the end of the day was resurrection.
Yeah.
So does that clear things up? Or you actually want me to, make a video specifically on the deaths of Jesus' followers and so on? Again, you can watch my resurrection video. I talk about it, but I don't know what your point is or what you're
Maybe he
after.
doesn't know. He just
That'd be a cool stream. I mean, maybe you could invite Sean McDowell on or something.
Yeah,
You guys
Sean
could-
McDowell. Yeah, because he's an expert on this. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll either. What's weird is I think I did before I deleted most of the stuff on my old channel. I think I did have him on. I think I did have him on to talk about that.
Yeah.
Maybe Farid is a closet Christian and he just wants you to bring Muslims evidence for the resurrection.
Yeah, he's about to say that. He's like, you make us kuffar or something like that.
If you put this out, maybe we'll become kuffar.
See?
Don't you
I told
want
you.
that? So put this video out, or tell your people, tell your fan base,
Dude, he's like slurring his
why
words.
aren't you making
Farid,
a
just say
video
no, man.
about the subject?
You asked me.
Oh,
Is that it?
Does anyone understand that? Does anyone understand? Wait, no. Then he plays this clip at the end of my testimony video.
Oh.
I don't know why he does these long pauses, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of funny. Come on, Farid.
Roll the clip!
And I read, if the sun sets you free, you will be free indeed.
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering how long my body can take what I'm doing to it before my heart stops. And I read, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies.
Pretty based walking around through here.
Kind of creepy when a book talks to you, but what do I know? I used to think that cats were talking to me.
Oh, that was his big like.
That's the big gotcha moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's another point that I bring up. Like, in fact, I mean, I'm speaking in El Paso on Saturday on this, but I'm actually thinking about like fleshing it out because I had mental health problems. So if you're reading the Bible and all of a sudden all these passages start seeming like they're talking specifically to you, if you are aware at some point that you have mental problems, how do you take this serious? How do I know I'm not being crazy right now? How do I know I'm not being crazy right now? So Farid went with that one.
So that was the challenge he claims you've been
That was the challenge.
intentionally dodging for like 3 years, and
Wow.
Yeah.
That's his final challenge to you. Nothing more.
well, it was
more.
3 years ago. Though. I just saw it was 3 years ago, right? 3 years
Yeah, but he said final though. So
That was
there's
3
nothing more.
years ago. So that was the final challenge. Why are you lying, Farid?
Let me just double check. I thought it said 3 years.
Say, here's my final challenge. Here's my final challenge. And then every other second you come up with another challenge. And then tell me, oh, you didn't watch this video. You didn't tell me you didn't watch that video. You didn't watch this video from 3 years ago.
Yep.
Something is not right with that, dude.
Yeah. By the way, it would be a similar issue. So what I
Oh,
was just...
sorry.
7 months.
Sorry about that. It was 7 months
7
ago.
months.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's more recent, but that was still his final challenge, even though he's given way more challenges since then. But
the
for
final thing he wants you to do is talk about the disciples.
okay, yeah.
As
I'll tell you what, Farid. It would be more relevant. It would be more relevant for around Easter time when people are interested in, reviewing the resurrection and stuff. So remind me then, Farid. Remind me when we're getting close to Easter, and I'll do it since you are definitely going to respond to the issues that we brought up. Fair is fair. Fair is fair. I will make a video on the deaths of the disciples for you around Easter time. So there you go. There you go. Doesn't get any better than that. But Farid, the issue I'm pointing out there is, like, if someone has if someone has mental health problems and then comes to a conclusion, how can you trust that conclusion? I actually have ways of doing that. Matter of fact, you said this was in the movie A Beautiful Mind, where in the movie, well, not in real life. In real life, he heard voices, but in the movie, he like saw people who weren't real. And so, if someone new came up to him, he would just turn to someone beside him and go, "Do you see this person?" So that was his way of figuring out, hey, I know I have mental problems, so how do I trust this? Well, there are ways of confirming things. So that is an actual issue for you, but it would be very similar. It would be very similar to like your prophet receiving revelations from Satan, the satanic verses, being duped, delivering those revelations to his followers, bowing down in honor of the revelation. The pagans are converting based on these revelations. And then he comes back later and says, the devil made me do it. Well, if you know that has happened, if you know that if you as a Muslim or if you as Muhammad or you as one of his companions know that this guy has actually been duped by Satan into delivering revelations, how would you trust future revelations? Like, how do you distinguish? How is he distinguishing in the future satanic revelations from divine revelations? So it would be a similar issue. I'd actually be interested in the explanation there. Or if you know that Muhammad was a victim of black magic, he's a victim of a magic spell, as we read over and over again in your sources, and this spell would give him delusional thoughts and false beliefs. How do you know later on when he's not giving you some ruling? How do you know he's not like giving you something that's delusional or something from a magic spell? So that is an interesting issue, Farid. So if you want to discuss that, you can always join us. You can always join us live, Farid.
Yeah.
We know you want. All right. Shout out to Mosh Cohen for a couple Apologetics Roadshow memberships, and we'll take these last super chats. Where did we leave off? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hey, this is interesting. Hey, what did we get? A bunch of super chats at the last second? Okay. Islam is the polar opposite. Oh, okay. We stopped with the Farid, stop hitting yourself. There we go. Does Mo Hijab really rip off Muslims selling them fake college degrees as if Dawah wasn't enough?
Yes.
That's what we're asking.
Maybe he'll explain that, but no need. And here's the thing. Jai and DoC, how much do you think this will bother Muhammad Hijab's fans?
Oh, they will not care at all. In fact, some of the responses we've gotten were like, "Oh, proof he's involved. Proof he knew. Okay, that's
Yeah,
pretty much the extent of what we've gotten. So they'll make excuses. They'll say, "Yeah, he was a part of the organization for 8 years. He was the director. He's responsible for this, and that, but he didn't know that his dad was selling professional degrees from London in petroleum or in airline courses or cooking courses or, child physiology or he didn't know that.
Even though he was director for 8 years.
Huh.
That's pretty much what their response is.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what he'll say. Farid insulted AP. Doesn't require rips or similar action to the Quran. Did he insult AP?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought you were going to eat the Quran when he said that. Yeah.
What did he say?
He gave, you know,
I remember he said holding his hand. Huh?
The name that they give him, the like a something.
Oh, he said apus?
Twice, yeah.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, he said it twice.
You brought it on yourself, Farida.
Okay, Farid, I'm gonna give you a choice. I'm offering you a choice, Farid.
Is it Hafs or worse?
No, you could get two pages. You called him that twice. It's 2 pages from a little Quran or 1 page from a bigger Quran.
Ooh.
Or 2 pages from a big Quran.
Oh.
Farid, you can't feign ignorance here, Farid. You know the rules. You know the rules. It was the same rules in effect, 7 months ago. It's the same rules that are in effect now. We make it very clear to you guys. Just don't toss up the pointless insults, the pointless name calling of people and friends and so on. And then we're all good. We have nice, friendly discussions. You bring this on yourself. I can only assume if they know the rules, right? If I say, hey, if you do this, if A, then B, and you do A, I can only assume you want me to do B, right? If I say, hey, if you call AP names, then I'm going to rip up the Quran. You say, well, fine. Then the first thing I want to do is call AP names instead of not doing it. You get what you asked for. You asked for it, and now you got it. All right. Thank you, Jack, for pointing out that I need to enforce the rules. Sorry I'm late. I was not eating the neighbor's pets. That's good. Okay. Mosh says, Muslims talking about Jewish nose with that nose. Farid, hey, let's not make fun of Farid here. Maybe he's actually Jewish. Farid, why is everyone complaining? No, everyone's complaining about Farid's nose. Guys, I have a pretty huge nose too, and mine's all broken from getting my face repeatedly beat in when I was younger. Farid's nose, that's everyone making fun of Farid. He's trying to waste your time. Ooh, that is a possible theory, that Farid thinks that by making all these videos, he'll waste my time. Hey, if Farid is the guy trying to explain all the different Qurans and helping us show people that there are different Qurans and that the explanations don't work, we'll keep interacting with him. A small thing to make you laugh. I watched through my ACOG scope a Haji scanning the QR code to the Boom Boom Room of Queers for Palestine, and just 2 minutes into the video, the guy lost it, completely shouting and screaming like a toddler. I had to choke my laughter to not blow our cover. So guys, Mosh Cohen is in Israel, and he goes around putting a QR code, and then people scan it, and then it sends them to like Muhammad's Boom Boom Room episodes and stuff.
Oh,
That's
it's
a good
pretty
idea.
funny. It is. It's a pretty funny idea. So he's saying he's actually.
He should make videos like TikTok videos about that, or like YouTube videos. That'd be really
Yeah,
funny.
that'd actually be funny, Mosh. So yeah, Mosh goes around with the code and then links to channels and videos and stuff like that he wants people to see, and people are just like, "Hey, what's this?" And they click on it, and all of a sudden they're watching Muhammad's Boom Boom Room. That's a pretty funny idea there. Allah equals bacon equals an X, also Allah. Oh, bacon is no, also Allah. Yeah. Putting something inside a little girl is good. Yeah. Make it make sense. Yeah. That is the perfectly functioning moral compass of Islam. Don't do this or everyone will freak out about it, but totally okay to mess around with little girls and stuff. Weird stuff. No, it's not going to make sense ever. Unless you realize that this is from Satan. He wants you to make a video that's basically Fox's because he's too lazy to look for information himself. A true Google academic with a PhD in being and a minor in Wikipedia. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm wondering where he's going with that. Like, he could easily look stuff up. I have it in videos before. I could go into more detail in the historical sources and stuff, but yeah, I was expecting some big challenge. Yeah. Mosh says 2 minutes into the video, the guy lost it completely. Oh, I already read that. Masihi says he means that you should only talk about suffering apostles since that's what changed you. He does not want you to talk about Islam. I wasn't saying that. He's just saying, hey, why am I not making a video about that? Yeah, no, he would.
I'm sure he's got some sort of genius angle that he's
Yeah,
going
I
to try to
know.
reach you with.
Yeah, that's
Like,
it's just
if you accept this, then you must accept this.
yeah, it's just a situation where Farid, I don't think it whatever little plot you are thinking in your head, I don't think it's going to go the way you think it will. Maybe he meant that it was his final challenge in a contingent sense, insofar as you properly accomplish it, maybe he leaves Islam. Makes sense? Okay. Well, we'll definitely hope that he leaves Islam. And Farid wants to debate you on the subject. Oh, come on. No, he doesn't. But if he... On what? The deaths of the apostles? Yeah, I'd debate him on that. That'd be fun. Or the implications? Yeah, fine with any of that. All right, guys. All right, final thoughts on any of this until Farid posts another stupid response?
Yeah, go ahead.
Farid wants your final challenge to be so that to make him kafir. It's very telling. It's not about the qira'at. It's not about any of this stuff.
No moral issues, nothing.
He just wants to be kafir, I guess.
Yeah, wants to be careful. So yeah, we're looking forward to the day that Farid leaves Islam. We hope that he does come to Jesus. He won't be a kafir. He'll be a child of God. We hope that he does. We hope that he embraces the Lord Jesus and comes to believe in his death and resurrection. So yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts.
So, guys, you've watched a bunch of Farid's responses. You've done shows on them. You've been with me going through them here as well. Has Farid said anything that gives you any more confidence in the preservation of the Quran?
No.
Never. Not one thing. Not one thing.
In fact, we use his material sometimes when we're talking to Muslims to prove the points that we're making. For example, Muslims will say things like, these are only dialectical differences, they don't change. And then Farid will put a post on his Twitter, which he blocked me from now, but I have the screenshots. He says, Muslims, you need to stop saying that these are only dialectical differences. Malik and Melik are not dialects. These are so yeah.
Good point, Farid. Good point. We love that point, Farid.
Yeah. So quite the opposite. We use his material to take away Muslims' confidence in the preservation of the Quran. And, many Muslims have left Islam because of that guy. Seriously, like none exaggerating. He actually is the reason for many Muslims leaving Islam. By proxy, Yasser Qadi, things like that, but he's responsible for it.
Yeah, and he's also, him and Muhammad Hijab together, responsible for torpedoing Yasser Qadi's career. So great job, job, and you're doing good work in the Dawah wars, Farid. You're taking out lots of stuff. But for me, the dynamic is it's exactly the same as like back in the day. You go back to the previous generation of Muslim Dawagandists. They wouldn't talk about certain things because they didn't even want to have to answer them, and therefore they would never discuss them because they understood if you even discuss it, then people are going to find out about it. So they didn't want to talk about Muhammad and Aisha. They would never bring it up. Back in the day, there's no scenario where Ahmed Deedat or Zakir Naik were going to talk about this stuff. They knew if they talked about it, they would have to acknowledge certain things, and it was better to just keep people in a state of complete ignorance. Then you had another generation of Muslims come along and say, we can defend it. So we will admit that Muhammad had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl or a pubescent 9-year-old girl, whatever they want to argue. But we'll defend it. I didn't realize that what they're doing, now you just exposed that information to a ton of people. In other words, the previous generation were deceptive, but they were smarter. They were wiser. They had more hikmah. They kept this information away from people. And that's exactly what you had. This has happened over and over again, but that's exactly what you had with Yasser Qadi. He's part of that previous generation that was going, this should never be discussed. We never talk about this. We never bring this up around Muslim. We never, no. This is only for students of knowledge. He was saying, hey, you cannot let people hear about this. If we start opening the door for people to hear about these confusing arguments we're having about the Ahruf and the Uthmanic recension and the Kirat. And so if we start getting into this conversation, it's going to destroy people's faith. And then you had Farid, exact same thing. What are you talking about? I can answer all of this and then just say it all goes back to the Ahruf. And he thinks, hey, I can answer it just like I'm answering Muhammad and Aisha. How can it be rape if there's parental consent? He thinks he's answering this stuff, not realizing everyone's watching going, what? What? This stuff's all true? So keep it up, Farid. Keep it up. Keep it up. Two last super chats here. Mush Cohen says, I'm doing it during nightly incursions into hostile villages. I have to stay frosty because I'm a marksman. The QR code is for fun and to increase your views. So he's actually doing it in dangerous areas and putting the codes up and sending people to our stuff. Pretty funny. And then he watches them through the scope as they as they check it out. Pretty funny. Basic Christian history is a big challenge. He's choking on milk and expects he can chew a steak. Yeah, but hey, again, Farid's doing all this awesome work for us. The least I can do is make a dope video on the fates of the apostles. All right, everyone. Again, be sure to subscribe to Jai and DoC's channel. Link is in the description box, and they do tons of good shows over there, so be sure to follow them, and way more interesting, fun stuff coming up here in the near future. So definitely want to be watching, everyone. And I think that's it. And there's a crazy presidential debate tonight, so I'm sure everyone's about to go watch that. All right, guys. Catch you next time.
God bless.